Well, we knew. All right, yeah, he's not coming tonight. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Can we go please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen, Mayor Brown,
Present.
Councilmember Sweet,
Present.
Councilmember Tucson,
Present.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Here.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Here.
Councilmember King.
Present.
6 present and 1 absent. There's a quorum.
Can I have a motion to excuse Mayor Pro Tem?
Support.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, please rise as you're able for the pledge of allegiance and a moment of. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic. Good evening. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
Are there any changes? Is there anything before we approve? All right, all in favor of the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next on the agenda is our closed session. Can someone put forth a motion and make sure we read the MCL code, please?
I move that we go into closed session to discuss. To go into closed session under MCL 15.268 sub E to discuss pending litigation of Ypsilanti versus Greenlee.
Support.
All right. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King.
Yes.
6 yes and 1 absent. The motion carries.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. I want to send a motion for us to move back into open session. So moved.
Support it though.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, thank you. All right, this is our opportunity for public comment. You'll have 3 minutes to address council. We'll start in chambers, then move online to Zoom. Please state your name and the ward you live in if you feel so comfortable. So is there anyone in the audience who would like to address council? Nope, no one signed up. Okay, is there anyone online?
Oh, but did we ask in the audience?
I did.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't think. Sure, nobody in the audience wants to address council?
Not required.
Nope, not required. No, okay. Online.
There is one individual with their hand raised, Shelley Marie Baker, and I'll allow them to speak now.
Good evening.
You'll have 3 minutes to address council. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good evening. Is there going to be a discussion about the rate hike for the sewer and water?
Yes,
Okay, will I have a chance to comment at that time?
yes, you will.
Okay, I'd like to hear the discussion. Unless you'd like to hear what I'm thinking about too.
I mean, you can share now if you like, or you can wait for the public hearing, whichever one you prefer.
All right, I'd like to listen to the public hearing first. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else?
If anyone else would like to make comment, please raise your hand now.
Oh, yeah, feel free. Yes, please.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Hannah McCready. I'm on the docket for the Historic District Commission nomination. So I just wanted to take a minute and introduce myself to you all.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Okay, if there's no one else in the audience who would like to address council, we will close public comment. So we're gonna move to our presentation. Say yes to seniors. Is Monica? Hmm. 1 second. Oh, she's in. Oh, okay. Hello. Oh, you're fine. Good evening.
And I'm the director at the Ypsilanti Senior Center. And this is not Bruce.
No.
uh,
Maybe I am.
But this is Allison Foreman. She's the director at Meals on Wheels, and she's going to start us off.
So I wasn't sure if you guys got the.
We do have it. Thank you.
Extra copies in case anyone needs them, or if you want them for other, some hard copy. So as Monica said, I'm Allison Foreman from Ypsilanti Meals on Wheels. We're in the city of Ypsilanti, right over on Cross Street in the First Baptist Church. So I myself live in Ypsilanti Township, but I have lived in this community for 20 years. So we are joining as coming here to today. We are reaching out to as many municipalities as possible to share information about the Say Yes to Seniors coalition. And we're a group of nonprofit agencies who are working collaboratively to try to get a senior millage through at the county level. So back in October, there was actually the Board of Commissioners had voted to ask Administrator Dill to come up with a verbiage and language for putting such a millage on sometime in the future for older adult services. So to give you a little bit of overview about our organizations. So again, most of the organizations that belong to this group, they are very much senior service focused. A few agencies may support other services besides older adults, which is quite common. Like I know as our program, we support anyone who's 18 and older who is homebound and needs meals. So our primary partners are Jewish Family Services, Chelsea Senior Center, the Ypsi Senior Center, YMOW, and the Area Agency on Aging. We also have partnerships with the Community Foundation and with Michigan Medicine's Community Benefits Program, which would be Ann Arbor Meals on Wheels and the Housing Bureau for Seniors. Many of us have been in the field for more than 15 years, some as much as 30 or 40 years. So we feel very passionate that right now is the time to act for older adult services as we are becoming a significantly older population. And just recently, national statistics came out that said by 2030, for the first time ever in our US history, those 65 and older will outnumber 18 and younger. So pretty big deal. Like that also has a lot of other implications when you have older population versus younger population, how they're going to support the community and how we're going to support those older adults. So some quick facts about us, of course, we have 371,000 residents and 72,000 of that 20% is roughly 60 and older. And we know that's going to keep growing and it will be over 100,000 of the population by 2030, 2032. So if you look ahead, most in our community, we're actually going to see the highest increase for those who are 80 and older. So folks who are, there's not a good name for it. They just call it the old. We got to find a better name for it, right? I don't know what it is. Like super senior sounds cool, but maybe that's
Super senior.
I really like that one better myself. So we do know that by 2040, we will see a doubling. So we'll be over 140,000. So, but just in a few years, we'll be over 100,000 of older adults. We also, as we know, the senior refugee population is growing at about 3% annually in our community. So our program providers, I think many of you are probably very aware of the services we provide. Ranges from food assistance and meals, case management, health and wellness programs, eviction prevention, transportation, home modifications, and caregiving support. So pretty much anything that you would consider as part of the wraparound support. So if one agency doesn't provide a service, you best believe we're connecting with each other to find out who else is going to be able to help our older adults in our community. So the next one is probably the most significant slide. It's the funding and how it's not meeting our demand. So it's that little dotted line document. And I think what's very significant, when you control for inflation and what the federal government is providing us, it is not keeping up. And even controlling for inflation, by 2030, we will be almost at like a 55+ degree angle. So it's going to start getting closer and closer to 70 and 80%, where we're not being able to make up the need. And what that means is by the time 2030 rolls around, we will see 103% increase in need with funding that did not keep pace at that level. And we know with the debt limit ceiling, we actually may see, we had some gains where about a 7 or 8% increase was going to go to supporting older adult services. We now know that through the debt limit ceiling negotiations, all that gain that we got over the last 2 or 3 years is likely to be wiped out again. So that's very unfortunate. So what does that mean in our community? What we all have know is happening across the country is that more and more we're called upon to deal with the needs of our people directly in our own municipalities, through our own government agencies, and through local government, state government, and municipal government. So you guys probably get these kind of requests every meeting you have, where everyone says the need is growing, and funding isn't keeping up. That is very true. So the staggering statistic here is older adult services have been funded by senior millages in our state for many, many years, 30 or 40 years, maybe even longer. What's really disheartening is that 73 out of 83 counties in Michigan are supporting senior services with some form of millage, ranging from a 0.33 millage up to as much as 4 mills. In fact, where they're leading the charge is in the UP. They are providing almost 4 mills of service support older adults. So in looking at that, we had a comparison between the county that probably makes the most sense for us for comparison. We know there's no apples to apples comparison, but probably the closest to us when you think about population size, income, and then even the split between like what we have the east and the west side of income is also what occurs in Kent County and the Grand Rapids area. So when we look at Kent County versus Washtenaw County, and they have a millage, and their millage raises about 11 million a year. So theirs is about a point, I think it's a little over a 0.5 mil, might be like up to 0.75 mil. And they recently just are going to be voting to have an increase too. Pleasure. Oh, bless you. So what we found is they are providing 4 times to 5 times as much service to their older adults than we are. And they actually have 3 or 4 programs that we just don't have. We know housing, right? I think that speaks to most of us, is a big need. And we're seeing a rise in the older adult homelessness population. I myself have had 5 clients in the last month be evicted and have no place else to go. They're moving out of county or they're moving in shelters. One of the unique programs they have up in Kent County is they have home sharing programs, and they have a housing fund. That's something they fund through their millage, which could be very beneficial in our community here in Ypsilanti. So why do we need that senior millage? We know the need is there. We know the aging population is coming. We know that many agencies, most of us have anywhere, I know Monica has 1 full-time employee to support all her seniors. Yep, just you. My agency has 4 to support all the older adults we serve, and we're serving 500 to 600 clients a year. And most of those clients are not one and done. We serve them for an entire year mostly, and some have been on 3, 4, 10 years in our program. So it's not that they're just coming to the food pantry once and leaving. We're supporting them for many, many years. And so what's behind this is we know that with the rising population, our staffing isn't keeping up, the coordination. We're doing our best to coordinate with each other, but things fall through the cracks because we keep different hours. The senior center, for one, is not open 5 days a week and 9 to 5. They just can't, they don't have the staffing. So what we're asking for in this is a 0.5 mil. And so this was developed about a year ago, but now based on our property values, they now estimate our mill would bring in close to 11 mil as well if we did a 0.5 mil across the county. If we were to fund that, we have some ideas about what we'd like to be funded. It would be case management, senior services, expansion of senior services at the senior centers, supporting caregivers, especially, the pancake kind of generation there where, they're supporting their kids and they're supporting grandparents. We know those are the kind of caregivers we need to do a lot for. And then housing preservation and security. We know we're not going to have enough affordable housing, but we know right here in Ypsi Township, that there is a way we could do some housing preservation and security with the housing that we have by making it more what we call aging in place friendly, installing grab bars, installing things that make it safer in the bathrooms that someone could be in a home that maybe isn't a single story. So some of the things we wanted to provide is case management, that central hub, connecting to in-home services, closed loop referraling system. In fact, we're actually piloting that between my agency and Catholic Social Services. We share the same electronic health record. So we can now send closed loop referrals directly back and forth. We can send pictures, we can send progress notes, and it's all controlled and HIPAA compliant. So we're hoping to kind of expand that closed loop referral system for our older adult services. And heck, we probably need it for all services in the human services, but we're a little bit smaller contained. So it might be a little bit easier to start with us to see how that goes. So there's an example there. So if 150,000 out of this 11 million were to go to a place like Jewish Family Services, which does the most wraparound support, what you'll find is they'll be able to hire 2 new case managers. They'll be able to help 300 to 400 more older adults through having the extra staffing. And then they will also help with navigation throughout the community. So senior nutrition. We get a lot of funding through the federal government, probably more sustainable than most agencies because there is a minimum that they have to fund us, which maybe supports 30 to 40% of our food budget. We do know our demand is increasing too. But the main area where we wanted to focus senior nutrition for the Meals on Wheels programs is we're seeing the rise for the demand for special diets. So what we would like to request funding through the millage would be for special diets such as vegetarian, gluten-free, kosher, halal, offering second meals, offering weekend meals, offering snacks. As we know, you age, if you have diabetes, sometimes you have one meal, and having healthy snacks throughout the day is a healthier option for you. So senior centers, I would be remiss if I didn't let Monica speak about that.
Yes, one of the things we'd like to see, there senior centers across the county, there's 13 of them, and they're all in various ways of being funded. A lot of them are not being funded by cities or municipalities or just partially funded. Some of them are fully funded by their municipality, but a lot of them only have part-time directors. They also, we'd like to be able to offer evening and weekend hours. Seniors don't go home and just sit around all the time. They'd like to be able to do stuff. One of the things we're focused on for senior centers is helping seniors get out and help alleviate the social isolation that is in seniors in the whole county, particularly the Ypsilanti area. Our seniors live shorter period of time than their life expectancy is shorter than, let's say, Ann Arbor or Chelsea, I think was another one that was, but we actually in Ypsi live 9 years less than people in Ann Arbor. And I think, and what studies have shown is social isolation is a big problem. There's also a problem with food insecurity. There's also a problem with seniors getting to their doctor's appointments. And because of that, we want to reduce that loneliness among seniors. And there is a National Institute of Senior Centers, and we'd like to be able to follow that standard. And it's a really good standard to live by for senior centers, but it is expensive to provide that amount of care. We don't do any physical care, like the Meals on Wheels. We do have congregate meals that we offer 5 days a week. But we do a lot of referrals. We send people to the Housing Bureau for Seniors if they're having housing problems, or we contact Jewish Family Services or Catholic Family Services if they need caseworkers. And that just takes a lot of time from staff. Right now, I have 1 half-time staff and me. And I lost one of my half-time staff that I was really expecting to go far in the organization, because she needed she needed a full-time job, and she also needed benefits. And because of our financial situation, we are unable to offer any benefits to our staff. I can speak a little bit on caregivers. We have a lot, and we have programs for caregivers where they can, like today I had a memory cafe where people that are suffering from any kind of memory loss can come with their caregivers, and it's a respite time for both of them. We can talk, and they don't have to worry about the fact that they can't remember somebody's name, or they can't remember what they did 2 minutes ago. We just have it's a social time, and it's proven to really help people that are trying to get through this period of time. And it also gives a relief for the caregivers, because there's a stigma about people that have memory loss. And I know from personal experience, my brother-in-law had dementia before he died, and it was hard for them to go out to dinner. They felt like people were looking at them. The waitress didn't understand that he needed some time to figure out the menu. And it's just, it was just good for them in our situation that once a month they can come and just have a social time and not worry about those things. We can also give them referrals also. We find out that there's a workshop being held for caregivers, or Celine right now has a can't remember what it's called now. Talk about memory loss. But Engage Theater is having once a month, they have a movie for people with dementia and their caregivers. And they have volunteers that come and help them get to their seats, and they show old movies at old prices. They're saying about it. But it's really good. In fact, we had a senior, just to tell a story about it, we had a senior that passed away. She had frontal lobe dementia, which is a real specific dementia. And she was coming to our memory cafes, but she was also going to Celine's memory cafe and to this movie. One day they went to the cafe in Celine, and then they went to the movie in the evening. And her husband said she laughed hysterically at the movie, and it was just an old movie. And she came home and told her husband that she felt like she was going down the river. And he had no idea what she meant. Well, she died in her sleep. But he felt like it was a real help to be able to give her that happiness for just a little while. She didn't have to think about, why couldn't she remember her kid's name or anything like that. But seniors that are caregivers that are helping seniors really need respite services, and it's hard to find in the city. Actually in the county, there is some organizations that'll give like 3 hours a month, and I know Catholic Services has one, but I think it's a limit of 3 hours a month. And just knowing how, if you're living with someone with dementia, that's just not enough. And I can tell from experience, Kalamazoo County, who has a senior millage, my brother-in-law's son moved in with them, and towards the end of their lives, took care of them throughout with the dementia, and my sister was wheelchair bound. And they were able to he was able to once a week go golfing. And that just kept him alive, so it was really, really helpful. There's also grandparents. There's lots of grandparents in the county that are raising their grandchildren. There's different circumstances. COVID that exacerbated the whole situation, where a lot of the parents were caregivers, had to go out and work. And so they ended up catching COVID and dying. And so now these grandparents, who are a lot on fixed income, mostly just living on Social Security, are also caring for these little kids who all have traumatic problems. Do you want to go housing?
So I also want to bring back to connect that senior centers can be an intergenerational place. So investing in the senior centers will invest in the caregiver support programs, invest in having the kids programs, things that can benefit the entire community, even beyond what supports older adults. And in fact, one of the best agencies that supports caregiver respite programs and has CNAs is right over at Back Office Studios, Seniors Helping Seniors, which pairs other seniors with a senior that needs help, but with a senior who's still able-bodied and wants to earn some income. So in a way, you're also doing some workforce development there too, and allowing that for some extra income. So really great. We do have a lot of great resources right here in Ypsi. It's just connecting all those together. And I really think seeing every time when we have a center, it should be intergenerational, but knowing that everyone has different backgrounds. So someone with dementia is going to need certain care when they come to a center that has children and other people there using the facilities. So it's just like when we have warming centers and the cooling centers, they're not always appropriate for everybody in the community due to certain people's health and well-being needs. So in addition to supporting family caregivers and supporting senior centers, I think the biggest thing we all know is that interconnectedness, food and housing seem to be very, very, very important. And so housing preservation has been really big. We know that home modifications, home updates that are funded through the county have long wait lists. And a lot of agencies are starting to take on doing some of these minor home repairs. So Catholic Social Services offers a home repair program. I actually provide a home repair program for my older adult clients, and ours is a clinical based program. So it pairs an occupational therapist. So you don't just have someone coming and installing grab bars, because if I'm 5 foot tall and somebody else is 6'4", those grab bars aren't going to be in the right places for the two of us. So an OT is going to come in there and say, what is the function you want to have in that bathroom? Is it going to be to bathe? Is it going to be to shower? Is it going to be, for lack of a better word, to do bird bathing, where you're just kind of cleaning up where you can because you're worried about your stability? And we do know that bathrooms are the most unsafe place for older adults. So like the help me, I've fallen, I can't get up, and it occurring in the bathroom is very common. That is where most of my clients come to me from, is after they've had a fall. And a lot of times the fall was in the bathroom. These are not very expensive interventions. We have gotten the cost down to having 2 to 3 consults with an OT plus the home modification done for less than $700. So, and most of those clients now can return to doing everyday tasks of bathing and cleaning themselves. Because I don't know about you, when I don't feel good, having a nice hot shower feels really, really good. That's what they call the creating that aging in place home model, is helping people to understand what their functionality can be. That we may not be able to have the stair mobility we once have, but how can we use the home that we have in the best way so that we're in our community that we love, as opposed to being in an assisted living, which we know is 10 times, 20 times more expensive, and for memory care, even more. So we also talked about the shared housing program. That would take a couple of staff members, where you're going to have people who kind of go out in the community and you're interviewing the homeowner and they're interviewing the renter, and to see what kind of shared life they can have together. That takes staffing time, and to make sure the partnership and the people living together will get along well. So another kind of unique thing we thought about was the Senior Affordable Housing Trust. So having a certain kind of like barrier busters, but having it be very focused on housing and specific housing needs. And that would require working with landlords who have shown themselves to work well with older adults. We have some that work really well in this community with our older adults, and some who do not. So I have some key ones. When I have older adults moving, I know which properties I'm going to refer them to and which ones I'm not going to refer them to in Ypsi and Ypsi Township. And we also want to expand housing counseling. So when someone knows that living in their own home is no longer the right move, maybe it's to move to a senior independent living facility like Town Center. I don't know if you've been in there a while. Town Center has gotten a lot better. The Rose Corporation does a significantly fantastic job of having affordable housing for our older adults right here in downtown Ypsi. Clark East Tower has done really well out in Ypsi Township as well. So trying to get folks to realize it might be time to go to a senior independent living facility that could be right for them. And then we just provided a few references at the tail end here that the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation, of course, is leading the way in research for older adult services and kind of the needs within our community, and that it's okay to live alone, because just because you live alone doesn't mean you feel lonely. Sometimes people like to be alone. I have had clients who, husband and wife, they live in the same home. They don't really chat very much, but what they do enjoy is when they can go out to the senior center for a crafting day, or to go meet with folks. I know bingo is very popular, so to get out and play bingo. And so we also wanted to include contact detail for our coalition members, and you can feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions related to the presentation, or if you want more information. We had also shared with you our executive summary and the report that Dr. Sarah Walsh conducted for us from the Eastern Michigan University, and she's also a board member, I believe. Yes, so she's a board member at the Ypsilanti Senior Center as well. So good local resources. So we are really thankful that you gave us time today. You're the fourth municipality that we talked with. So we have talked with Ypsi Township, Superior Township, and Manchester, and now City of Ypsilanti. And that's kind of our goal. Is we feel that if this is going to work, we have to hear your guys' voice, what you think is good about this. And of course, we are open to the feedback, critical feedback that you guys might have for us, whether you have questions for us right now, or if you want to send us questions for the group at a later time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Are there questions from council?
I do have a few questions.
Councilmember King?
So I did talk to a few seniors in my ward about this program, and their main concern was, as Monica stated, that they are on a limited budget. And so this meal would, while it may look like a little amount a month, they said it would disturb their current living situation. Would seniors have to pay the millage as well? That was one question that they had.
Now, I don't know the whole details, but part of the Area Agency on Aging 1B had told us at one point is there's ways that seniors or people on very limited income can get out of paying the millage. And I don't know, I'm not an expert on that.
Yeah,
It was Bill.
We did say, ask Administrator Dill about that, and there are ways to do that. The other piece is to really show the value that the likelihood, and we want it to be known that it will help urban dwelling older adults to rural, dwelling older adults. Because that's why there's a breadth of service, because we know aging in place service. So to have a $700, $800 repair, I mean, there are some places if you have a fall at the hospital, they will not release you back to your home if you haven't had those modifications. So some people become institutionalized, which costs much more money than having them back at their home, because they can't afford, the $700, which is really challenging. And if anyone does come to your house to do plumbing or any kind of thing, they want their money up front, or they want it right when they're done. They don't really do payment plans. So it's trying to figure out a way to show them the value adds that they would get from this too for certain seniors. I know for low resource, but even for moderately resourced older adults, I think it's a concern too. And we do know we are a millage heavy county, but we are also a county that is very compassionate about supporting every person. But there are ways that can be thought of, but it ultimately would be up to the Board of Commissioners and to Greg Dill. In fact, well, it would be the Board of Commissioners. It's really, he makes the recommendations and they decide if that's what they want to vote on.
I have one more question. It's kind of a two-part. Another concern was, how will seniors know about these resources, and will it be income-based? Because we know a lot of programs, sometimes people don't get the help because they don't know about them and because they are right outside the income bracket.
So I think by having it be with older adult agencies, there isn't a lot of income related guidelines. I know for our aging in place services and our meal services, there's no income guidelines. We do, as a federal requirement, we have to ask people to contribute, but we don't mandate it. So it's not like, we say the average daily donation should be $3 a day for meals, but no one has ever turned away for that. And there is some sliding fees, but even Catholic Social Services that does home modifications, if someone doesn't have the money, they still will get the service, or they'll work on like a payment plan with them that, if a project is $1,000, the person might pay $100, but they might pay $10 a month. And that they don't have to pay the $100 up front in order to have the work start. So it's not like you have to wait, the 10 months until you get that. So I think having it be through the nonprofits will allow for some of that concern. And I think the piece for advocating, if we're able to do that hub model where we can do the closed loop referral, it'll be a lot easier to educate and share the resources of what agency provides what service. And, it is hard. Like, there is a lot of agencies out there. So, 211, having them have the most updated information. I know in our agency, we go to the churches and send out our information, and we are starting to have more. Our community health worker is going to start in the fall going out to the churches and promoting our services a little bit more. Just it had been staffing. We didn't have enough staff to have that time to go out and to meet at the churches. So I think for us, where I see the greatest impact is getting out to the churches and the community centers to spread the word. And then from there, training people at the churches to say, here's the 2 or 3 things to know about getting this service. And that if they get to one of us, then through that closed loop referral, whether if we're not the right agency, I can then put it through the closed loop referral and it's secure and HIPAA compliant.
There is also talk of having a county hub that would take phone calls and then pass them on to the agencies that are needed. I know that is one thing that Kalamazoo does. When my sister was having trouble keeping up with caring for her husband, I made one phone call in Kalamazoo and they ended up getting a social worker. They got meals, they got respite care for my sister so she could get out without her husband. They had cleaning services. There were just a number of things they were able to do just by that one phone call.
Thank you.
Further questions? Councilmember Lisa? Thank you. So I have a couple of questions, comments, thoughts. Thanks for sharing this. People are already like being like, ooh, this is interesting to learn about. So, I think what I just looking at some of these different pieces, when I think about, okay, 73 counties have this, but I think, oh, well, do we have a lot of mills that other counties don't have? Like, I don't know. In terms of things that we're providing for. But I also think to the question, to what you were asking about, Councilmember King, around, I was thinking about who the senior centers serve, and also thinking about folks who might have like mobility challenges or reasons that they're already shut in, for all of the things that led to those lower life expectancy places before they become seniors, and knowing that those folks might be feeling like that if they already feel like they can't access services or like those social things now, that they might feel harder hit too, because they won't necessarily reap those benefits. So I don't know whether there's ways of like, and if that already happens, of bringing those folks or having things that are specific to those populations, to be served recreationally, which I don't know, but again, I don't know what all of the programming is, except for things I hear about from all the seniors in my life, which are many. And so anyway, and I know people, love line like dancing, that's a popular one, but spades nights, I don't know. Anyway, so that's one thing I was just thinking, I don't know what that looks like, but just as folks are sharing that, that might be helpful to talk about the populations that are served by the senior centers.
Touch on a piece, like one of the things the Board of Commissioners has asked Greg Dill to do is also to look at what is all being provided through each mill. I think many municipalities, the theme that I keep hearing is, what is it that the millages are already investing in? Where is the baseline of if there is housing related millage dollars, how much is going to older adults and how much is going to each, category population and race, ethnicity, and age group. So I think that's part of it too, is and then seeing where are those gaps, like, ooh, yeah, based on population, older adults are only getting 10% of the housing assistance, but they're now 30%. So it's really out of whack. So there is talk of that, of like, where would that be? What are the mills actually going to support? What is the kind of dashboard look like, so that we can see where the holes are? And we do know the holes are really around those secondary supports that are much harder to find assistance for, the chore support. But to your point, like, for my clients, I have, we're one of only 2 programs in the US currently. Toyota funds it for us. We have an assistive AI device called LEQ, and she does social interaction with clients. And we were able to use the ACP program, which is the discounted internet program. So of case management, my staff got people access to internet. So even if they end up not liking LEQ and they're like, the AI is too much for me, they still will have internet after the fact. So we made sure to have it be kind of like tiered, so they can still then have access to using their smartphone now on a Wi-Fi. But she helps with, like, you can sing together, you can listen to music together, you can do paint by numbers, you can now do FaceTime. I don't know how many of you have had FaceTime with some folks who don't realize you have to flip the camera, because otherwise you're looking at their hand and not their face. So there's actually a way where you can program in all of the needed phone numbers for the older adult in your life. And then there's an app through LAQ where you can FaceTime and actually start the call. And of course, they still can say verbally or touch screen if they want to have that call with you. You can send text messages and videos through it. It can do medication reminders, which is really good. In the first year, I had a 60% improvement of the 25 clients of adhering to medication management, which will, again, keep older adults out of the emergency rooms. So really fun program. So we just got some additional funding, so we're hoping to expand that program, and primarily that program is supporting our seniors in 48197, 48198 zip codes. So definitely in this community. We're in talks with Riverside Art Center to do an art program that is virtual. So where they get the supplies sent to their home and then they can get a video or a handout, and also to hire local artists and pay them for their work, not just ask them to donate their time so that they can do that. And a piece we talked about is, can we also give them Uber rides there? So maybe one month they are feeling really good and up to it, that they can make it to the senior center or to Riverside Art Center to then show off their beautiful artwork.
Yeah, thanks. I also was just, I think some of the things that you talked about are things that have also already been named as needs for IPSI within housing in particular, some of those different modifications and things that you talked about. And obviously this is like one of those areas where there's like intersections of other agencies within the county that are like overburdened, that, you know, serving this population, especially as it is growing, could help. So thinking about housing as a big area. So one thing so of course, like I like really interested in housing things in particular. So when you said you had 5 folks who were evicted and now are moving out of the county, I mean, this is something that is following trends for all age group demographics and how we're losing, right? Like people. And so that's really hard to hear. So sorry about that. But also wanting to just name too, just a thought when you were talking about let me get to the slide. Yeah, so thinking about like shared housing program in particular, I just wanted to mention something that I think could be, seems like it's different from what this is in terms of what y'all, and I'm not sure when you're saying the interviewing for the homeowner, the renter, who those people are, who's the senior in that necessarily. It could maybe be either and within that. But something that I just wanted to mention that I think could also actually be complementary and can make sense to hear. And there's some different models of this elsewhere. So I wanted to name community land trusts. And I know in Minneapolis in particular, they have one of the programs that's called Project Legacy, that's specifically for seniors, and it's a program to help keep seniors in their homes while also supporting the land trust. Like, so they kind of then they are like selling their home to the land trust, but then they're able to get some of these different modifications that they might not have been able to afford themselves. And there also could be ways to bring in like some shared housing things within that. And I think about, for a lot of the housing stock here in the city, we have these huge, beautiful homes, a lot of them historic. A lot of people in those homes are aging, have been here since like the 70s, you know, maybe, and even before that. Anyway, so just I've been thinking, this is like a dream I've had for years of, you know, this process of how you create this system of folks being able to build relationship, but then to think about shared and intergenerationally sharing in those spaces and being able to provide for, you know, more housing and more density too within these spaces to serve multiple needs, keep people in housing, create more. So anyway, so I just wanted to lift that as like an idea to think about, because I think there could be some interesting ways that could work together for like longer term, right? Because as we're saying, this is a growing need. And so we kind of have to be thinking about like how we're creating these spaces and also having spaces that are more modified for seniors.
That, like the municipalities would then have to buy in for like if that property, because would it mean like you'd have to reduce property tax on it, or?
You're asking about like what a community land trust is, or
Well, if the community land trust, you know, I know like when the county does it, sometimes municipalities don't, like Ann Arbor's doing that, and they've had to have trust built in with, you know, like Northville and certain areas. But what if the, say the county wanted to come to IPSI, you know, what kind of things would the city of Ypsilanti need to make that attractive for you guys, like say as city council, or how that would be built into it would be, I would assume would be something in consideration.
I'm not, well, I mean, please don't. We don't have to get into a whole thing right now,
no,
because I'm not quite sure. I'm trying to understand what it, like, we can talk about a lot of things, but I'm not sure exactly like in terms of what it looks like, what Ann Arbor's doing in terms of a community land trust. Cause I know people have been trying to like start one, or I know there was one, but anyway, back in the history. But anyway, so I'm not quite sure what that would look like or mean, but I think there's lots of different ways, and there's been folks kind of talking about and thinking about different financing in different ways too, so.
I just would look at that if we recommended that we're not stepping on anyone's toes.
Oh. I just have one question, going back kind of to some of the case management logistics. I see that it talks about a centralized hub, and I know that you said that currently your portal is able to speak to another agency. Who would be, like, what would be the entity that would be the center for the intakes and referral base?
So we'd have to select an agency, I think much like what the county does, like when it's Hawk every few years where they negotiate like who would be the right entity for that. But we've just been trying it out to see how it works between two agencies. So, and the nice part is we share a similar system. So even though I already am paying for my electronic health record system, they're paying for their electronic health record system. We don't have to pay any other fees to it. And in fact, we can get other licenses for someone who doesn't have the actual system. So there is ways for that system to be more affordable compared to like if every agency had to pay $20,000 to have that electronic system. There's a way where it can be one central system and you can set the layers of like who can see what. So like if someone's clinical, of course, whoever's got a nurse, they want to see med management. But if you're, a social worker, you don't necessarily need to see that. We want to keep things, as private as possible for the older adult.
Yeah, we utilize a shared system in Wayne County in my day job. And so I was just wondering how you all, what do you envision for it? But that was a good, thank you. Any additional questions from council?
I just want to say thank you for coming and sharing the information. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure to see you all. I don't think I've ever spoken in front of the city council like
Thank you.
formally. So it was great. It was a pleasure to talk with you guys.
Thank you so much for coming. Thanks, Monica. Thank you. All right. All right, friends, we'll move into our ordinances. Councilmember Jay Simmons, you have the first one. Yes, you do. No, you're fine.
No, sorry.
Is that my right? Okay.
All right, resolution number 2023-116. It is resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the certain ordinance entitled an ordinance to repeal city code section 58-123 be adopted on its first reading. And I so move.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Mr. Barr, this is what we just talked about. Okay. So I guess we can open the public hearing if Mr. Barr, do you want to give some remarks on what this is for the public?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. This is an ordinance to repeal part of the Ypsilanti City Code in regard to landlords. And I've reviewed the law. It's my opinion that this would be a proper thing to bring us up to the present status of the law to repeal this part of the ordinance.
Okay. All right, so we will open the public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this, you'll have 3 minutes. Please raise your hand, or if you're online, please raise your hand virtually.
No hands are raised, council.
Okay, to Councilmember Jay Simmons, you can.
All
open the
right.
public hearing.
Resolution number 2023-117. It is resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the public hearing for an ordinance entitled an ordinance to repeal city code section 58-123 be officially closed, and I so move.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we did have a conversation about this. Are there any additional questions or comments from council?
Well,
Councilmember D. Simmons.
yeah, just a couple of quick things. Just to say, I think in terms of in the public record, that I think that this whole discussion has raised a lot of questions in terms of information that the city lacks about what is going on within our rental properties within the city and for tenants, and how much turnover is happening in those spaces and why. And so that's definitely something I'm interested in us pursuing more. And then also making sure to be clear too, that the information that's within these packets are available on the city website. And so thinking about ways to make sure that we're getting that information to people, and that landlords who are interested in sharing this full information have opportunities to do so, and know that it's available, I think is really important. And then also just to name that I definitely have concerns about the landlords named in this case, bringing this Thomas More Society to our community, and especially for these reasons and circumstances, given overall voter suppression efforts across this country, and especially leading into what we know is going to be another very contentious election cycle with people running for office for their own self-interest. And so when I think about how we are responsible for protecting our community, I think about that people in decision-making power are part of that. That's part of, like, you know, so yeah, so I just think that it's really important to think about these things, and also to note what are things that we need to do better as a city to actually protect all of the residents, and really the majority of our residents that live here. Because just qualitatively, it's really hard as an ally to kind of hear and to feel like we're not doing enough. So this just really lifts it up to another level again. And, you know, I'm excited to think about what we'll do with our motivation.
Any other questions or comments from council? All right, seeing none, Clerk Kalanga, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
No.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
With 5 yes, 1 no, and 1 absent, the motion carries.
Councilmember Tucson, you have our next ordinance.
Indeed, I do. Resolution number 2023-118, resolved by this council of the city of Ypsilanti that an ordinance to amend chapter 106, article 5, section 106-454, subsection A of the Code of Ordinances, City of Ypsilanti, to adjust sewage disposal rates approved on first reading, and I so move.
Support. Moved and supported. Good evening.
Good evening, council. Thank you for having me here tonight, Mayor Brown and members of council. Recently, on June 28th, the Weissway Board of Commissioners approved a water and sewer increase of 4%. We finished our fiscal year budget. Would like to provide just an overview of some of the pressures that the authority is seeing, not just specific to sewage, but I'll give it as an entire authority and focus some on the sewage on this agenda item. Coming out of COVID, the authority had definitely seen a drastic decrease in consumption. Last year was a very positive year for the authority in regards to revenue. What we're still trying to figure out is, was last year a really good year, or was it the new baseline? We're unsure at this point because there was a lot of volatility in regards to the consumption. Last year was up just over 3% in consumption, which was a benefit for the authority. We estimate a revenue next year of about 48.4 million, with expenses coming in at about 49 million. Major drivers or pressures, especially on the sewage side for those expenditures, are significant increases in road repairs, materials, costs of labor, chemicals at the wastewater treatment plant. Last year, we had saw a pretty substantial increase. This year, not as much. Materials such as chlorine has definitely increased coming out of COVID. Natural gas, another item which is consumed at the wastewater treatment plant for the incineration. We're under a contract right now and pay a fixed rate. But during the latter part of next fiscal year, we'll be coming out of that contract and have already been given notification and expect to see a large increase in natural gas costs for the authority. Other items such as heavy equipment for our service department, backhoes, fleet. Last year, due to increases in costs, we actually did not make any major purchases in our fleet, so we've deferred some of those costs. A lot of the equipment we have in our service fleet is somewhere around 20 years old. Some of our Vactors are around 20 years old. We've paid for some repairs to try to extend the longevity of that equipment, but it's definitely reaching the end of its useful life. We're also proud to notify council. Approximately last year, we signed a memorandum of understanding with Washtenaw County for the low-income housing water assistance program. So we have two major programs that the authority offers for assistance for water bills, the Water Residential Assistance Program through the Great Lakes Water Authority, and this new program through Washtenaw County. Typically, customers that are having issues with payment can contact our customer service staff and be taken through that process with those organizations. The 4% increase, I'll give it as an entire impact on the water bill, but we typically try to draw a baseline for usage just so it makes sense in dollars and cents to what the impact would be on a customer. So we usually start around 10 units, which is kind of the normal usage on a bi-monthly basis. That would increase a bi-monthly bill for a city customer to about $136.45. And that would be an increase of about $5.24 on a bi-monthly basis to customers. And I welcome any questions in regards to further details that council would like regarding the proposed increase.
I just have a question about the assistance programs.
Yeah.
So in terms of like even the one that Washtenaw County has opted in with the MOU with you all, when the percentages go up, like the cost per unit goes up, how is it reconciled with what the threshold is for someone to meet the criteria to receive assistance?
I believe most of the programs are based upon federal poverty levels. It's about 150%, but those individual programs make adjustments accordingly. Some of the programs such as RAP, it's not just water bill assistance. They'll actually pay for assistance for repairs to the plumbing system if there's leaks and issues such as that. But I believe that's based upon federal levels. That's independent of the authority.
Thank you.
So I understand, I mean, essentially, the Detroit Water Authority, Great Lakes Water Authority has increased by 4%. So it's kind of like passing it on, right? I mean.
Well, this specific agenda item is the sewage disposal rates.
Okay, sorry.
So since the authority owns and operates its own wastewater treatment plant,
Got
this
it.
is independent of that cost.
It is independent, okay. So we're gonna see any increases related to that?
The proposed increase on water and sewer is 4% on both.
Okay. Sorry, it's the next, right, so, okay.
That's-
Fine. I'll ask my question later.
Okay. Any questions about the current ordinance around sewage? Okay, thank you. We have some questions for you after, but we're gonna open the public hearing. So if there's anyone in the audience or online who would like to speak to this topic, please raise your hand and you'll have 3 minutes. Anybody in here? There was someone online, I believe. Oh, she hasn't raised her hand.
If there is an individual online that would like to make comments regarding sewer rates, please raise your hand now and you'll have 3 minutes to address council. No hands are raised.
Close the public hearing.
All right, resolution number 2023-119 resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that a public hearing on an ordinance to amend chapter 106, article 5, section 106-454 subsection A of the code of ordinances, city of Ypsilanti to adjust sewage disposal rates be officially closed, and I so move.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Other questions from council? Councilmember Jay Simmons.
I think maybe actually my questions are more related to sewage than water, because water is what comes to us, right? Sewage is how it gets out. And so I can tell you that in my area, and I think other areas, they get a little salty, thinking about increases from YCUA after experiencing devastating floods, roughly 2 years ago. And I understand that, you know, these increases, right, are related to other things, but I guess, you know, I'm curious to know and our citizens to know, you know, what efforts are being made, I guess, from Yucca's side to kind of deal with those issues. And I realize I'm kind of hitting you with this. And so I would welcome you to come back another time if, you know, that's something that, you know, you'd rather be more prepared to talk about. But I guess when I think about these increases, and I can appreciate it increasing costs, but I also have real concern about the infrastructure. You know, and we're trying to look at ways to deal with the, you know, stuff we've got under the roads that kind of, you know, take care of the water and things like that. But it's just a huge issue, and it's definitely an issue in my ward and others. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you for the comment. I can definitely address it to some extent. I wasn't at the authority probably during the flooding that you're referencing, but flooding can happen for a number of reasons, such as issues with the stormwater system, drainage from the property, issues with even the sewer lateral from the property, which does lead to a lot of flooding in certain situations. There has been some isolated flooding a handful of years ago in different subdivisions. I'm not aware of any significant changes in the city's sewer system that we've made. We do have some in the township, and there's a multi-million-dollar project going on right now that is addressing some of that flooding. The service department that we have does respond to and provides a service that no other utility that I'm aware of does. We actually take some ownership on a property owner sewer lateral that the city of Ann Arbor or Canton or Superior would not do. So we go up to the property line and maintain that portion of a customer sewer lateral. Sometimes you have tree roots, you have various damage that can happen to that lateral as it brings wastewater into our mains. In some utilities, that cost for the homeowner actually goes all the way to the main. They have to deal with digging up the sewer and dealing with permits with the road commission and so forth. So that is a significant cost, but sometimes that can be a reason for flooding. But in specific to the city, I'm not sure of any specific sewer mains that are right now compromised or caused any significant flooding.
Right. And I'll just say, right. So I guess my question when I think about approving these rates is that I'm hoping that YCUA is really thinking though about, you know, how do we meet the challenges that are going, you know, that are here now and that to me don't seem to be going away. You know, these 100-year floods are, you know, I think they're less than 100 years. And so, you know, I guess that's just something that I want to say that while, you know, I'll support this, but it is on my mind and it's on my my constituents' minds about how we tackle these things. And like we own that too, because we've got, you know, sewers and things like, you know, things like that. And so does, you know, YCUA. And I agree, YCUA, I think does do a pretty good job compared to what, you know, service other areas get, but it's definitely a concern that's on folks' minds. And, you know, we have to be able to meet the challenges that are coming. And so.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
I have another question in terms of like future planning. So a 4% increase, I think for a lot of our residents feels like a lot. And I know you said that it pans out to being about $5 every 2 months, which for some could be really detrimental. And so I'm wondering about like thoughts about the future, because we get different percentage of increase, you know, depending on like what's happening. But do you all have a sense of, you know, looking at projections, like where this is going? Like, will we be coming back in a year from now and asking for another 4% or 3% based upon what you've been seeing with the increase in usage and, you know, the costs?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Brown, for that question. There's significant bonds that do come off from the Water Street project next year and the year after. So we started a couple years ago forecasting out multiple years. And even though costs, and I'm kind of moonlighting a little bit on the Detroit side for the water, because all those kind of impact rates and budget. We do believe in the future, there'll be differences in rate increases. Hopefully we can suppress them as much as possible and or avoid them. That is always my goal. And Dwayne Harrigan is here from YCUA. He's our finance director. So it's something we work on all year round to try to minimize costs. And for the most part, we've kept expenditures fairly flat, but the costs that we have a little control over, such as chemicals, such as rates from Great Lakes Water Authority. Those are somewhat out of our control.
Thank you. Oh, do I? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Any additional questions from council? Comments? All right, thank you. Seeing none, Clerk Kalanga, please call the roll.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
6 yes and 1 absent. The motion carries.
Thank you. Councilmember Sweet, you have our next order.
Resolution number 2023-120, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that an ordinance to amend chapter 106, article 5, section 106, 454 subsection B of the Code of Ordinances to increase water rates within the city of Ypsilanti be approved on first reading, and I so move.
That's supported. Welcome back.
Thank you again. So the water side of the authority is slightly different because we don't own and operate water treatment plants. We do purchase water from the Great Lakes Water Authority, have done so for quite some time. There's actually very little opportunity on the water side to control the rates outside of the increases we see from Great Lakes Water Authority. Of course, there's additional costs for electricity and operation of the system, investments in the system, such as the disruption that's going on outside as we speak. As of July 1st of this year, the Great Lakes Water Authority did increase the utilities YCA's rate by 4%. That was definitely impacted some by, this is what we call a contract alignment year. That happens in the master contract that YCA has with Great Lakes Water Authority, where we go in and then negotiate new water, essentially consumption or peak hour and max day rates. So it increases, I'll call it the volatility that we see in the rate beyond just a normal contract year. YCA did lower our peak hour flow consumption, which did decrease the cost that we saw, but it was still resulted in a 4% increase. That is definitely the major driver behind the water rate increase. We are projecting some additional costs due to an aging infrastructure, especially with water meters. YCA, in my history with YCA, we've never done a major overhaul of the water meter system. So that is a project that is definitely on the books and that we're moving forward on trying to plan. We are trying to approach the state and have submitted various plans for revolving fund through the revolving fund program for low interest loans or loan forgiveness. But some of that infrastructure we have on the water side is aging to the point that manufacturers no longer support those systems. So it's getting to the point that our hands being forced from the equipment side and from the telemetry side, just communicating with some of that equipment. Those are really the summary of pressures that we have in regards to the water side. And again, I welcome any questions regarding.
Do you have a sense of bi-monthly what the increase to an individual family's bill would be, like you had for sewer?
I'm sorry, the $5.24 actually includes water and sewer increase. That is it's 4% on each rate, commodity rate, and RTS, but the total impact is $5.24 on a bi-monthly basis, and $136.45 that I referenced is for total water and sewer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I guess my second question would be the peak hours. Can you tell us what those are? Because I would never know.
So there's essentially 6 components that we have control over somewhat with the Great Lakes Water Authority in our contract. Some of those factors we can't change, such as the distance from the Great Lakes water system to our delivery points. Those are fixed. Elevation is fixed. But what is not fixed is the peak hour usage that as in the maximum amount of flow that we would take from the Great Lakes Water Authority in an hour. and or the maximum amount of flow that we would take from them in a 24-hour period. So as you change those or disconnect those two numbers, it changes the cost pools that you're in with Great Lakes Water Authority, and their impact on that system. For example, one of the largest cost pools is the max day, right? How much water you're going to take from them on a day, versus peak hour is really more when you have very warm weather and or you have a major main break or fire within your system, where you would see that hourly flow peak quite a bit.
I don't know if I'm gonna ask this question in a way that makes sense, but so it's not set up like the same as like DTE peak hours where there's an increased rate. Okay, that's what I want. Okay, it's not for, thank you. That's important.
Sorry.
Like people, yes, I'm like, I just want to make sure. Okay, perfect.
Come up here, Dwayne. Come
You can, yeah, you can go up. Yeah, can you speak to the mic? Thank you.
One thing that helps us be able to manage that peak hour and peak is our storage. We're one of the utilities that has one of the biggest amounts of storage. So basically on a hot day, we can use Great Lakes and complement that with our storage and then fill it at night, which is not the peak hour,
Got it.
and then be ready for the next day.
Thank you. That is very different. And I think folks need to hear that and know that. Yeah, okay, yes, thank you. All right, any additional questions from council before we open the public hearing? All right, hang tight. We will now open the public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to address this topic, please raise your hand online or in the audience.
If anyone participating virtually would like to make comment, please raise your hand. No hands are raised, Council.
Councilmember Sweet, you can close our public hearing.
Resolution number 2023-121, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that a public hearing on an ordinance to amend chapter 106, article 5, section 106, 454, subsection B of the Code of Ordinances to increase water rates within the city of Ypsilanti be officially closed, and I so move.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, there's an opportunity for additional questions or comments about the water service rates. Seeing none, Clerk Kalanga, please call the roll. Oh, okay, he didn't start. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. No, you're fine.
I'm sorry. It's just because I just got an email about this, but so I know that this is about the rates and not the quality of the water. But it just came up because I know somebody was asking me about this, which was around like testing for our water, and PFAS in particular, and thinking about ways that we're doing that, making sure that our water is of highest quality possible.
Thank you for the question. Recently, there was changes to the Clean Water Act that now does require the providers to do various monitoring for a number of polyfluoroalkyl substances in our water. The Great Lakes Water Authority does control most of that monitoring. YSUA does not directly. We do some sampling for them and provide them access to our facilities. To date, the water quality in our service area has been non-detect for those components. And they are under these new requirements. Great Lakes Water Authority has been in front of those and been monitoring on a voluntary basis for a number of PFAS compounds, such as we call PFOA or PFAS. And they will continue to have to monitor for those compounds under the new rules from EPA.
All right, thank you. All right, going once, going twice. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson.
Yes.
Motion carries with 6 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you for answering our questions as well. All right, Councilmember King, you have our first resolution.
Resolution number 2023-122, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the minutes of June 2023 city council meeting be approved. I so move.
Support. So moved and supported. Any updates to the minutes? All right, clerk, you can call the roll, please.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons.
Yes.
Motion carries with 6 yes, 1 absent.
All right, thank you. Councilmember King, you have our next resolution.
Resolution number 2023-123, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the following residents be appointed to the city of Ypsilanti boards and commissions as indicated below. Should I read each name? Okay. Ben Barry, Parks and Rec, Lola Malmer, Parks and Rec, Jake Albers, ZBA, Hannah McCready, HDC, John Van Bolt, HDC. I so move.
Support. Moved and supported. Any discussion from council? Thank you. All right, seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Sing.
Councilmember J Simmons.
Yes, sorry, we had some
Yeah,
issues.
this is here with me.
Motion carries with 6 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you. I know. Councilmember Tucson, you have our next resolution.
Indeed, I do. Resolution number 2023-124, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti, whereas funding has been for the renovation of the softball field in Park Ridge Park in the city of Ypsilanti, and whereas the city of Ypsilanti has solicited sealed bids for the project, and whereas Premier Group Associates is the lowest qualified bidder and is being recommended by the city's engineering consultant for the anticipated scope of this project. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Ypsilanti awards the Park Ridge Park softball field renovation contract to Premier Group Associates, that the city manager is authorized to sign this contract subject to review by the city attorney, and any change orders are subject to review and approval by the city manager to facilitate the completion of this work, and I so move.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Director Wessler.
Mayor Brown. City Council. Does anybody have any questions? Pretty straightforward. We expect a very large project. We have the money for a slightly smaller project that still gets the job done. And so we invited the bidders to essentially tell us if they'd take the smaller project. That is what we have before you tonight.
It's also time for discussion as well.
Yes. This is-
Yeah, well, this one's kind of close to me because the Supreme Felons actually brought this issue to my attention. They wanted to know more information on what was going on as far as like having that softball field remediated and things of that nature. And they actually even reached out to see if I could assist them in finding a company that they could work with to recommend to the city to work within the $50,000 budget that they got from Senator Irwin's office. I did in fact help them do so, but unfortunately the timing of it didn't work out properly. So in any event, I'm happy to see that the South Side, Park Ridge Park, the softball field is getting remediated, look way better. Give the community another opportunity or another way to have fun in our beautiful city of Ypsilanti.
Yep. Now, one thing I do want to mention with regards to timing is this wouldn't be complete in time for the Summerfest. We
Right.
went over the timeline and we can't make it really work.
Right.
So it would be really, the work would be done this fall, I believe. Yeah. September, right? Yeah. Let's welcome
Hi,
Rachel
Rachel.
Jackson, HM advisor, who handles all of the actual work involved with this. Yes, so they'd be working in September, and so it would be ready for 2024.
Thank you.
Can't wait.
Question. Okay, just for the good of the public, our smaller project, what is that? What is the scope of that project?
So the main issue with the softball field, as we've seen it, has been the infield, the playing surface. So this would be a removal of that playing surface and rehabilitation of it. So anything else that I'm missing, Rachel? I think it's that we're leaving the fencing in place and all that. Yeah.
Which is good. Yep. Thank you kindly. Councilmember D. Simmons, you have a question?
Yeah, this is just, so for this, it was that we have 50,000 and it's coming in at 60. So I was just wondering for that 10, if we already have that or if it's, yeah, where that's coming from exactly.
We'll pull it out of the 71, 70, the Parks Fund. Parks Capital Fund. We don't have a whole lot in there, but. we'll get it.
Thanks. Bonnie. Any additional questions or comments? All right, I'm very happy to see this. Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
6 yes and 1 absent, motion carries.
Councilmember Sweet, you got a hot ticket here. There we go. All right, you have our next resolution.
Okay. Resolution number 2023-125, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti, whereas funding has been programmed for accessibility improvements in the north end of Frog Island Park in the city of Ypsilanti. And whereas the city engineer OHM has prepared a proposal to provide design engineering services for the project. And whereas design engineering is necessary prior to bidding, now therefore be it resolved that the city of Ypsilanti approves the proposal from OHM for design engineering services for an amount of $49,850. And further that any change orders may be approved by the city manager to facilitate the completion of this work. And I so move.
Been moved and supported. Welcome back, Dr. Westland. Director Westland. Director Westland. I haven't slept, y'all. I'm sorry. Okay.
I regret to inform you all that I do not have a doctorate in any field.
I couldn't get my words out.
It's all right. It all starts with the D. Yeah, we've talked about this project for a couple of years now. We've gotten the paperwork in order. Start moving forward. We didn't want to move forward too quickly because we didn't want to be exactly on top of the Forest Avenue Bridge. We'd rather just prolong the pace of construction in that general area. So, any questions?
Yeah, any questions? Councilmember Sweet.
Does this include, is this for the whole,
That's what I was gonna ask.
the whole parking lot, or can you define the section that this is gonna be for?
You know where the concrete bit is?
Where
That
the
used to
what?
be the-
Like where the recycling
where the recycling
facility
center
was?
is.
Yes.
It gets down that far,
Wait, coming from Cross Street or coming from Forest?
Forest.
From Forest to the.
So
Right,
from
so this
Forest
is
to
in
that
North
section,
End. Yeah, so, yeah, from Forest to that
so
section.
where it's mainly like dirt and gravel right now? Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
The whole,
You've got a source of milling.
I know,
We're
I'm
probably
kidding.
Gonna put millings in the rest of it, but that's another. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, additional questions from council or comments? Yeah, it is what it is.
you gotta start somewhere,
You gotta
okay?
Start somewhere.
This is a start.
Get done, okay, that's it. All right. Clerk Kallega, please call the roll.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
motion carries with 6 yes, 1 absence.
All right, Councilmember D Simmons, you get to talk about the elevator.
God.
Thank goodness.
Resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti, whereas funding has been programmed in the capital improvement fund for elevator modernization in City Hall in the city of Ypsilanti. And whereas the city of Ypsilanti has solicited sealed bids for the project, and whereas Schindler Elevator Corporation is the lowest qualified bidder and is being recommended by the city's engineering consultant, Lurch Bates, for this project. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Ypsilanti awards the elevator modernization contract to Schindler Elevator Corporation for the bid amount of $435,927. That the city manager authorized to sign this contract subject to review by the city attorney, and any change orders are subject to review and approval by the city manager to facilitate the completion of this work. And I so move.
Or
Move and supported. Welcome back.
Wait, who got the support first?
I feel like I heard both at the same time.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. I don't have to.
Pleasure to be here once again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had the one bid on the elevator modernization. This is it.
This is the one.
Yep, so there are a few things that we do need to work out with the contract and some of the finer points. We are working with Lurch Bates on those as well as Schindler. And then in terms of attorney, Mr. Barr, I am confident that those will be resolved prior to anybody signing the contract. Gonna get a functional elevator someday.
Thank God.
I have two things. One of them was clearly I'm sleepy because I read that they were contracting for a turkey project. It's turnkey. But
No turkeys.
I read turkey. I was like, what are they gonna be doing with turkeys in the elevator?
Well, actually, I shouldn't guarantee that no turkeys will be harmed. We do not currently plan at this time
To harm turkeys.
harm any turkeys.
And then just because I'm wondering, do we have an idea of why we only received one bid? Was it a cost thing? Like we're not paying it?
So when we do go out to bid, we don't say this is our budget.
Okay.
Because, if we say, hey, our budget is $300,000 and somebody can do it for $200,000, they're gonna
Say
bid for
$300,000,
$300,000.
Mhm.
So we have a ballpark idea of how much it's gonna cost based on what the engineers tell us. The City Hall is a unique building with some very unique challenges. This building was not built to house an elevator, and that shows. The place where the motor is up on the roof is very challenging to get to. It's very challenging to run modern electronics in that shaft and throughout the building because a lot of the building is masonry, but not all of it. There's also some asbestos in the building, so that also creates some other challenges. Please don't lick the floor tiles. Yeah, and so there's a lot of unique challenges with this building in particular.
It's on brand for the city.
It really is.
Unique city,
There's
unique challenges, unique, like, yeah, pretty on brand.
Unique and expensive, that's all.
Not that many companies do this work.
That is correct. Yep. Everybody prefers to build brand new elevators and shiny new custom built elevator shafts.
Mhm.
Yeah, so there's a lot of electrical work in particular that goes into this elevator.
Oh.
And that was a concern for a lot of our contractors and bidders and their subs. And there's not many people playing in this field either. I think there were 6 pre-qualified people that we invited to bid. Yeah, it was open to everybody, but we especially reached out to these 6 companies or so. And Schindler, perhaps not coincidentally, also currently holds the service contract on our elevator. So they're familiar with what they're getting into.
Well, thank you. Any other comments or questions from council before we vote? Councilmember Sweet?
This one, unlike the baseball, this one came in under budget, right? We budgeted $500,000 and this was about 4. No, this is over.
Yes, last year we had budgeted $350,000.
Okay, never mind. Okay, so it's
Oh, yeah.
far over,
Significantly.
but it's okay.
But it has to be done.
Yep.
It does need to be.
Okay. You have something?
Yes, I'm actually glad that this elevator is being restored and fixed because the last time that I had to use it, and I can only imagine from the residents' perspective, the last time I had to use it, I thought I was gonna be stuck in there. So yeah.
That's everybody's first feeling.
Yeah.
It does get stuck more often when it's humid. Again, going to the electronics. The primary issue that is driving this particular thing is that, and I'm going to say symptom rather than actual functional issues, that when it's humid, we tend to have more issues. That affects the electronics of it. So my personal rules for using the elevator, always have your cell phone with you. Don't lock your knees and don't be drinking anything.
And if it goes down, just jump while it's going down.
Yeah, the Looney Tunes has taught us that that is the safest.
Oh, wow. Okay. Additional comments or questions before we vote? All right, seeing none, clerk, please call the roll. Thanks, buddy.
Councilmember Sweet,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson.
Absolutely.
Motion carries with 6 yes and 1 absent.
Thank you. Councilmember J Simmons, you have our last resolution.
Resolution number 2023-127, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the premium for the property and liability insurance renewal for the city of Ypsilanti effective August 1st, 2023-2024 with the Michigan Municipal League liability and property pool be approved in the amount of $414,103 be approved. Be it further resolved that the city manager is authorized to sign and approve payment of the invoice, and I so move.
Or
Moved and supported. Who's speaking to us on this?
That would be me, council. So when I do budget for our insurance renewal, I do budget very conservatively. I under budgeted our revenue for our dividend by roughly $14,000. And then I budgeted 10% increase for general liability, and there was sub 5%. So we're not paying as much as I have budgeted for.
Did you say you did 5%? How much?
I did 10%.
Oh, you did 10.
Very, very good. Very good. I love to see them. It's not what we thought. It's amazing. Any questions from council or comment? This is pretty straightforward. Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet.
Yes.
Motion carries with 6 yes, 1 absence.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're moving into our first of two discussions. The first being regarding boards and commissions, and I don't know who's taking lead on this, but the floor is whoever that is, yours.
Hello, council. The committee asked that I present a brief.
Just a presentation in here?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the clerk will take it away first. Thank you. So sleepy that I'm actually laughing.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, so just starting, as you know, council members King, Simmons, and Sweet and myself are a part of the committee to review this. We met on both May and June 9th. We mostly reviewed our advisory bodies concerning HRC, Parks and Rec, Police Advisory Commission, Arts Commission, Sustainability Commission, and Board of Ethics. And from that, we mostly focus on the first four. The committee's first suggestion was to remove the Open Meetings Act requirement. Back in 2009, council did pass a resolution that would subject all advisory bodies to the Open Meetings Act, and that passed narrowly with a 4-3 vote. The committee also discussed creating a boards and commissions funding mechanism. And then during our goal sessions, certain goals will be assigned to the bodies that are created. And then the council will budget according to task specific. The plan would be to have onboarding, training twice a year in person. And of course, we'll provide a virtual aspect as well. And that will occur in the early spring and fall. We'll also create a YouTube video to supplement training for those individuals that are, appointed between those dates. And then we'll ask the commissions themselves to assess the skills they are lacking. So we looked at merging some of the boards and commissions, and we looked at mission specific. That'd be the Police Advisory and Human Relations Commissions and Parks and Recreation and Arts. We're looking to empower public bodies through resource allocation and involve them more in the legislative process. Each body will present their annual report to council, but it will be done orally rather than just putting a report under communications. While council did not elect to fund a field day this year, but the committee was hoping to, in the future, move forward with this. And again, as was discussed, a ward against ward, and it could be used as a recruitment tool for the boards and commissions, and Parks and Recreation could design that event. And then we'd also try to involve Ypsilanti Community Schools and Eastern Michigan University, hopefully getting some of those U seat fills, and then trying to engage more with the student population at the university. So the Police Advisory and Human Relations Commissions, they both focus on the human condition and inequity. The committee was thinking that there would be 2 staff liaisons, the chief of police and the HR director. And each of those individuals would only attend meetings that are specific to their job function. And then Parks and Recreation and Arts Commission both have a similar focus on recreation. And much of what the Arts Commission does approve is located in the park system. Merged commissions will have no more than 11 members with no more than 3 non-resident members. Council will then pass legislation merging the commissions. The commissions will then draft the amendments to combine the ordinances themselves, so completely merge it. So they will have some ownership over what their procedures will be. And then commissions, since the Open Meetings Act will have been removed, will have the ability to meet virtually and create an environment more based on dialogue and less on the hierarchical structure of a typical board and commission. So a timeline that was suggested was July 25th. We'd have the first reading of the ordinance merger. August 1st, we had the second reading to approve the ordinances, and then a resolution to rescind that resolution passed in 2009 for all advisory bodies except for the Board of Ethics that will still maintain its OMA status. August 31st, the ordinance would take effect. And then in September, the new bodies would meet and begin discussions on potential amendments to their enabling ordinances. That's what I got.
Very good presentation. Thank you. All right, cohort, what other things do you all have to add? Councilmember Sweet, then Councilmember Teeson.
Yeah, so when we kind of started this conversation, Andrew touched on some of the reasons for the mergers and some of the other things too. As we know, we've struggled with members of some of those groups. HRC could not meet for a while. Arts Commission was in the same boat. So kind of condensing them down into groups that could have a bigger impact and be larger as one unit seemed to make more sense. And that's kind of where some of those suggested mergers came into play. And a lot of the things that I can personally speak to the Parks and Rec and Arts theme of it is there's a lot of overlap there, right? So instead of having them do 2 things in a silo and kind of have them combine, made more sense from just how they operate and how they provide recommendations to council too. So.
I think you had your hand up.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah. So a couple of quick things. One is what is a question? And this was a question, I think, for Mr. Barr, which was a question about if we remove the Open Meetings Act, whether that then allows for youth members to be able to be voting members on the commissions, because that seemed to be the big issue with them being able to be full participants.
Those are 2 different issues. The one with the voting member has to do with the age of majority. And the present law is to be a voting member, you have to be an adult. And so you can have a youth member. But generally the law is that youth members can serve, but they cannot vote. If you wish, I'll do another review of that and see if there's anything changed in it.
And so that's just in general for our advisory boards that so even though it's an advisory board and all these different things are kind of stripped away in different ways, that they still wouldn't be able to vote because they're not 18.
Right? It doesn't, the issue is, does the Open Meetings Act affect that? And the answer is no.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and there's not something that would affect that.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I'll look into it if you'd like.
But currently that's connected to being a qualified elector, right? That language.
Right. Mhm.
Which is within which is within the way that we've set them up, or is that within something that's sanctioned by
believe
the
it's
state?
Twofold, one in the general law and one in the way that our charter is.
Okay. So anyway, that was a question I had because, as part of this, we're trying to think about how to actually like improve like membership and actually, and that's something that I've heard before, whatever from folks. And I can understand like you put in the same time, but then you don't actually have part of decision making within those spaces. So anyway, so that's definitely something, I'm definitely interested. I don't know if others are in terms of what that would look like. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was, so as I've talked to folks about this and there are questions about the Open Meetings Act piece and concerned that it would make a lot of the work that happens in our commissions, which feed to council, be like in private. And so, but one of the things that Andrew was pointing out is that there's different things that we could actually stipulate some different things too, like outside of the Open Meetings Act, in terms of ways for, expectations about that, in terms of still noticing ahead of time for like their main meetings, maybe, or ways that they bring it back into minutes or something. If there is a subcommittee that meets, that it comes back into the public record during their meeting or whatever. So I just wanted to name that. That's something that we might want to take up and consider. And then the last thing I wanted to just say, because I know this came up because when I was thinking about it, and then and talking to folks, people did ask about, because the Human Relations Commission is in our charter. And so what would it take, like, what would it look like for us to make changes? And so, Andrew, you'll definitely please correct me for the places where I'm wrong on this based on what you shared. But, and so the way I'm understanding it is that within our charter, there's a requirement that we have an HRC, but the actual work that the HRC does is in a separate, it's like its own, it's in their separate charter for the commission overall, and that's not specific to our charter.
So the HRC is listed in our charter to review patterns of racial discrimination, but how that's gone about is in chapter 58 of the city code. So that can just be all handled within that code. There would not be any requirement to amend the charter.
Yeah, so those are the things I just wanted to mention that were kind of in addition.
Question for the committee. So I remember when this was coming up, and I remember when I was liaison to police advisory, for instance, they were like starkly against merging with HRC, even though we brought it up as an idea because it was a good one. Has anybody had any communication with these specific 4 commissions to see where folks stand? Well, I know that, again, those seats change, right? But just wondering how they would be about these ideas. I like them all.
But no, we did not reach out to the police advisory or HRC, obviously, right?
Right.
But the one other thing we did discuss is, I know Councilman Tucson is a representative for the police advisory, and I am for HRC. And one thing I would say is that, not answering your question, this is completely separate, that we will alternate. We could alternate. Yes.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So, if I could interrupt, I think it was the committee's objective is to kind of get the pulse of city council before potentially ruffling any feathers on it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, after that did come up in conversation about starting some of those conversations, but Andrew's like, we actually shouldn't like try to say a decision has been made before council has made a decision. And so we definitely held off on that, but that's also part of the reason why, when thinking about what the work would be of the combinations, that we wanted to also put that into the hands of the commissioners, to kind of give them that chance to do that without us kind of doing all the work for them. And then the other thing to say, which is that part of, as we're thinking about the functions and like the roles and why community members will pay attention to these spaces, right? Seeing one space is a place where folks are kind of being able to bring concerns or commendations or things like that related to services and things that are happening and that, within the city, and or naming areas that we should further study. And that's something that we don't see a lot of happening, and that hopefully if we kind of refocus in that space, that we can make it more clear for our residents as well.
Any discussion from this end? So I want to make sure I'm allowed to get consensus, right, around how. So I'm always nervous, like, okay, I don't know. So how are folks feeling about the suggested changes? So I'm assuming the three of you all are in support of this since you brought it forward. Yeah, in terms of what the presentation was, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I wish we didn't have to merge some of the
Yeah.
commissions,
Mhm.
but I understand what we're trying to accomplish.
Mhm.
You know, because I guess in some ways better to merge than not have any
Functional.
activity or you know, and have them functioning, so. Yeah, so I don't know, kind of like mixed feelings in some ways. But
In respect to.
You speaking to the mic?
Yes. In respect to the commission that I am liaison for, it seems right to merge the police commission, police advisory commission and human relations together. I mean, I don't see why it would, but I understand. But I like the idea of it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Jennifer, can I ask, like, is your concern about all of the two proposed, like, I guess how do I say this? Is it about one over the other, or is it
Oh.
just the whole process of merging them in general?
no, it was more actually HRC and
The police advisory.
I kind of like them being, you know, well, because I think they have such important functions, but I understand we've really been hindered, particularly with the HRC, which it was my original meeting, how I got involved in, you know,
Oh, wow.
city. So I got a little something with them.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, so that's actually all the others I don't really, you know, I just felt like I don't want like their missions to get lost because they get merged, but I guess I can, you know, I think
That's
it's,
how you massage the ordinance and.
No,
make sure that
yeah.
everything's
I think
good.
From what we talked about too during a meeting, that there could still be, and there probably will still be like
Separate
a
subcommittees that
subcommittee
each
of,
one.
yeah, that's fair.
like where you work, focus on this and you
Yeah.
focus on that.
I brought to them too before
Yeah.
they weren't happy about it, but.
So, yeah, no,
Yeah, that was one of those things too, where we were like, oh yeah, like subcommittees and things like
Yeah.
that, like make a lot more sense.
Yeah,
To be able to come up for specific issues or things that come forward.
I think my only other thing too is just making sure, I understand we're removing kind of the OMA, you know, requirement. And so just still making sure that if the public wants to
Yeah.
somehow participate and attend, that they can, that we're still noticing meetings, and that if it's on Zoom, there's a
Link is
public link
available.
and,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I just want to make sure, right, that folks have a opportunity to, you know, be part of that or.
That was my question to you, Andrew, or Mr. Barr. With removing the OMA, how much control do we have around telling these bodies in their potential new iteration, how they have to function in terms of like notice where their meetings are held?
Advisory bodies, city council can dictate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, right, yeah, so that could be, you know, notice.
So would that be written into their ordinance then, like where they have, let's say they have to meet like 4 times a year in whatever?
You could do that.
Or does it-
When you remove the Open Meetings Act, you can set a policy for.
No.
Okay. For-
That could just be across the board in its place.
Mr. Barr, were you gonna add something?
Well, I was going to say that most of the boards and commissions have bylaws. Those bylaws are approved by council. That would set up the meetings and the different procedures and so on. But Andrews, the city clerk is completely correct that the boards and commissions are all advisory.
Okay, so it feels like we are all feeling all right about this. So clerk, what would you need from us to move forward? This? Seems like we all like it.
In consensus, we can begin moving forward.
Feel like there is. If I am incorrect, please let me know. All right, yes, we can begin moving forward. So we should look for something on the 25th. Thank you very much. Thanks, subcommittee. This was great work, all 4 of you. Wonderful. Look at the team. The team.
Trying to.
Yes. Awesome. All right. This is very productive. All right, and then our next discussion is about employee evaluations, and so I'll kick it to Councilmember J. Simmons to get us started.
Yeah, so Clerk Halenga had sent out the, you know, kind of, I guess, draft or what we've used in the past. And so I think we've used that for the last 2 years, essentially. And so, you know, at the time, now I guess to do another round of these. And so, right, we wanted to just kind of talk about it. You know, is there any changes we want to make to the evaluation forms? Are we kind of satisfied with what it asks? And then do we want to utilize the same format of how we've done it? So yeah, so that's about it.
So the floor is open for discussion on the evaluation tool. And then we'll go what to process after. Okay, so talking about the tool. If everybody's had an opportunity to look at it, to review it. The only thing that I noticed in the description around like forms and process is at the end where it talks about the mayor is going to tabulate and submit that. We've never actually done that. We've always had a subcommittee. And then, does it say the mayor? It does. It says the mayor will provide a tabulation summary page to the city manager, and each member of the council. And so I just want to make sure that we either like.
Oh, I can amend that if you want.
Yeah, I mean, just because it's rotate, depending on who's on the.
Okay.
the
I mean,
committee.
yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
I'm hopefully I will be on the committee, but we've had it where it wasn't that way before.
Well, I think, I mean, yeah, I mean,
Or I could do
I've,
that.
I've been the person who's.
I know, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at you because I'm like, well, really.
I'm
to
happy
me-
to do, which is
Okay.
fine, you know, but, so it's, yeah, however it works. Like, I mean, if I mean, I'm happy to work with you
Yeah. we can
or
send it out.
whatever.
Okay,
I
that's,
mean,
that works.
so we can leave the mayor
All
on
right,
there.
cool, fine.
But either way,
I just want to make sure it didn't cause any issues.
so I'll tell you how, I'll just tell everyone else how it works. So we'd send out, you know, everyone gets a copy. And again, I guess if there's no amendments, this could be your copy and you complete it. And then you would email it back. And previously people would email it back to me. And I think you were on it in the past. And then I was usually generally the person who kind of just took all the comments and then put them all in, you know, one master copy. Like, I think you had seen a copy of that previously, kind of what it looked like. And then we would take also, the clerk and the city manager also complete you know, their own form too, kind of a self-assessment. So I would take their comments and put them and then kind of color code them to, you know, that person's comments and then council comments. And then, you know, I would tabulate the scores and give kind of a, you know, the average score from council and then what they had as, you know, their self-assessment score. And then, you know, and that's kind of that's the document we use to kind of present. That way people can feel, you know, free to be honest. And sometimes people are uncomfortable giving, you know, kind of frank statements or whatever, and it kind of having associated with them. And anyway, but so we have a kind of a record of it, but then we just bring it out that way. I don't know. And I want to set a tighter timeline.
Yes,
Because we
please.
kind of didn't do a great job with that. So, you know, I would just say, hey, what's reasonable for folks to do a turnaround time? I don't know how long if Steve, you know, if he's would be available, but you know, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks or something or whatever.
So, I haven't heard anything from anyone, but I want to make sure that we don't move on from this around the actual document itself. Are there council members? Wait.
Have we had, or was there like a section at, because it's all different categories, but is there a spot for like a overall? Or is that?
Oh, an
something
overall
that-
score? No, we kind of just.
Is
do it
that
by
something that
this-
we've not put on there or it hasn't? been
We've not, because the thing is like, I mean, we haven't, you know, you'll notice, I mean, like an overall rating.
Is it because of there's just so much content to it? They're all
Kind of.
different. Okay.
Yeah, and this was this is a kind of a combination of various, you know, we used like what was from MML. So, you know, we didn't like just create this. It was
Following.
used also other jurisdictions. And so we kind of took that and
You kind of had a template
we had a template. Yeah, I mean, from
and
various
modified it.
sources. And
for-
yeah, to kind of fit our own and then also what we've used in the past. And so, so it's not that we can't, we just have to do some weighting, right? Because like some categories have six, you know, things for scoring. Some have just two, or, you know, and so we'd have to weight it. And I don't know. I guess that's something we could always talk about. It felt like there was an overall.
Has it worked? Well, I mean, you don't think that that's something you've seen it and done it. I mean, it's worked well with. In that sense.
Worked well. I mean, yeah, I guess.
It's.
I would say it's more effective than what we've done in the
In
past.
Okay,
Before this.
that's
yes,
good.
Yes,
Okay.
been better than
Yes,
that.
it's been
Okay.
better.
I would ask though, like, so city manager and clerk, do you feel like
Mm-hmm.
an overall score would be of a benefit to you rather than what we have with just by section right now? Would that be useful?
I like sections because it helps me to
know,
Like where are the areas?
Yeah.
I just calculate my overall.
Yeah, of course you do.
And then it's the form that Francis and Andrew fill, it's the exact same, right? There's not a
Exact
difference.
same form,
Or
yeah.
do their self-evaluation and send that into.
Okay.
Councilmember D Simmons.
Yeah, so so it's helpful to know that these sections are maybe different than they have been before. So, yeah, so
Oh,
that
it's
was.
drastically different.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
bad.
Okay, so yeah, so and then but so it's good to hear like kind of like where some of these are coming from. One of my questions is around like I'm looking at some of these categories and thinking about, how I would appropriately come up with ranking for some of them. Like for instance, there's the relationship. I also run like there's relationship with public and then management of employees. I was thinking about relationship with employees, but because in the relationship with council. But thinking about how will we know the relationship with employees? Do we put out something to get feedback to say like, how have you been feeling about your interactions with our city manager? And things like that. So I just wasn't sure about some of those things because that kind of jumps out at me of things where, I know in some places, there's ways where the employees are part of the feedback, right, of their managers.
360 review.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's something actually when initially developing this, I mean, in my mind, and we talked about this, is that, that this was the starting point. And that maybe, as we kind of learn through doing, that we might make some tweaks or changes in categories. We did talk about a 360. I mean, I have talked with folks about 360, but employees, generally feel uncomfortable doing that. So we'd have to figure out if it's because it's small departments and, so there was a discomfort with that. But it was something I thought, could be
Mhm.
valuable too, because,
I love a good 360.
I've been through
So-
those myself. Yeah.
Well, it makes me wonder too, part of our council member rules, right, is that we're not supposed to talk to staff besides directors. But this is one of those examples of like, I feel like it's talking to, anyway, so that's just one, this is one of the categories, but I just think about like, when we could do some.
Sorry,
I was just thinking, I love the idea. So I was thinking
maybe we
could charge to do something
with employees.
I mean, if I was,
my department head.
okay. If I was really, if I said, like, for me as an HR professional, like, if we really wanted to do that, to me, we would hire someone external and do it that way. So that it
Mhm.
was,
Take
kind
the
of guaranteed.
bias out of it.
Well, and also just, anonymity and the way they, because
Yeah.
I've been through those, I've done them for about, and there's a way, that they
Mhm.
reveal stuff. So I'm just saying, if that's something we,
Mhm.
Yeah, 360s are great.
yeah, so again, it's something, yes, we
Mhm.
thought about, and I think it's never a bad idea. So if that's like a category you feel like, again, we can tweak these and,
Mhm.
and you don't, there's no obligation. If you feel like there's something you can't answer, you don't, because it gets
Mhm.
averaged out by how many answers came for, to get a score. But, like I said, if there's, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the clerk one, or I think that was in there. So yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. So if you,
Mhm.
I mean, right, and people in the past, I think have been able to answer, felt like they could answer that, but, again, I think there's a couple ways to handle it. So if you have a suggestion of, hey, what if we did it this way or something,
Mhm. And then, yeah, thanks for that. So then I guess the other question, so in terms of when you were asking about timeline, and, obviously not wanting to go into the situation that we had before, and I'm trying to remember that timeline breakdown, but then is there a time where we would look at this, make suggestions as we're talking about these kinds of things, and then when we would be officially in our review time with the date of being like, this is the completion? I wonder if we could choose one.
So when the clerk sent this out a few weeks ago, that was supposed to be our time to look at it and come with like ideas. If there were questions that we wanted to change so that we could set a timeline to start the completion portion. If folks need more time to do that, I guess we can figure out a date for that now and move forward. Are you?
That's fine, yeah, I mean, yeah, because we were hoping like, kind of review it, and then today we talk if there was any things, suggestions or, get consensus on, any changes or whatever, and then kind of, right, then be able to move forward, either make those edits and send out the new document, or hey, nope, we're good with this one, and then just move forward with like, okay, fill it out and then, do the whole thing, so.
Yeah, I think I would say like, I know I was confused when I got it. Cause I was like, oh, cause one of them was kind of filled out, looked like was filled out, was not. So I thought so I wasn't actually sure. I didn't know that this was a change document that we're supposed to look at and get feedback on in order to move the process. So I'll say that I wasn't clear about that. I would be happy to look at it, and it may not be any changes, but with
It
that
is-
lens.
I think just the dates are changed. Otherwise, it's the same one we've used the past 2 years.
Mhm.
So I think it just says 2023. And if you catch a date that's not on there, let me know.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with that. If folks need another, like a week, is that reasonable or something? And then if it seems like there's a lot of changes or something, then maybe we need to have another conversation about it at the
Mhm.
next meeting.
And I know before it was like, we wanted to make sure that they were done in time for, because we ran up against this last time where it wasn't done in time for like full staff to then get their have their reviews and get their compensation changes. And when does that process typically happen? I can't.
Oh, I would say, I think because to me, those are separate processes.
Well, this was something I felt like I remember you had brought up before.
Reviews happened, but the performance raises, that was what didn't happen, but the reviews happened over the summer, I believe, right? During the same time period that we were supposed to be completing ours, and we just never completed ours,
Yes.
but theirs were done.
The internal ones will happen. Normally, it was just, as you said, it was just the council ones we were waiting on. And at that point, I was going with the previous process, which is I was waiting, but I'm not gonna do that. Just gonna continue to go for it.
Okay.
Hopefully, we'll all be on the same.
So what's your time frame you're gonna be using for the staff?
So staff most of them are doing them before August. And everybody already has their pay performance already. I think you said August, didn't you? Because we did a poll. Did you say August that you do yours?
Yeah, I do. I do my employees sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's where their self ones or the full process.
The meeting, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Woo, 2 people.
Our next
Okay.
one is 25th, yeah. Okay, yeah.
So, go ahead.
Oh, no, yeah. So anyway, right, we're kind of in time and we don't want to, right, we
Mhm.
want to kind of move it through and, yeah.
We started early on purpose so that we could look at this, be
Mhm.
prepared to have it done in alignment with them. So we're just talking about it early, which is better because we clearly,
Yeah, no, 100.
you all,
Yeah.
but some of us have been late.
I have a suggestion maybe, or so how about we say like, take a week to review it. And if it seems like there's some, like changes that need to be made, then maybe we bring it back to the next meeting just to finalize and discuss so that we're all in consensus. But if there aren't, if there's no one who emails, I don't know, should we just wait or?
Well, don't we have to approve the process in session?
So maybe we approve the process next meeting. Okay, all right.
The process.
I thought we
We
did.
did, we had a,
Last former council member made a motion to maintain the process, but as a.
Okay, that was
When
kind of
When it
redundant.
was changed, I think in 2016, the old policy.
Yeah.
So for council wants.
Okay, no. So, but does it make sense to then maybe bring this back at the next meeting? I would say though, if you have like substantive changes, maybe shoot me an email and I can kind of prep a document if there's something like that, and then we can just review it and finalize it. And then we do like maybe 2 weeks after that council meeting, like, get them back and then have a week to tabulate. And then it would be like the next council meeting after that, we could, we'd have them to bring forward that to set times for the review. Does that make sense? I'm just doing a rough timeline. So we're talking like end of August, first meeting in September at the latest is still very timely.
yeah.
So that's kind of my thinking. Does that seem, yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, while we're talking about it, because I just had one comment then while we're, the last question on the clerk evaluation, I'd like council to consider removing. I just don't know that it makes the most sense.
Which,
Under leadership and professionalism, number 4.
and is it on both of them or?
No, it's only like on both manager and clerk,
Yeah, which
No,
one's,
it's-
sorry.
on the city clerk evaluation.
Oh. Consistently make.
I just don't know that it makes sense and what. How you evaluate that to get anything out of it.
Okay. Can you just send me an email? If there's changes, I'm just gonna say like.
Well,
I mean,
That's the only significant one, because I reviewed it. That's the only significant one that I was questioning, like why that is
Yeah, and
like
then-
that.
okay, and then I'll bring like whatever people send and say, here's what was suggested and we can review it.
That
Mm.
question is to swap with the number 4 on the manager one, actually. Which is, demonstrates the ability to reach timely decisions and initiate.
I think that makes,
That's fine.
Yeah.
If someone will just email me that, sorry.
I'll do it. Jen.
And then what I can do
I'll
is
send it to you.
I will,
Package it all.
well, yeah, I'll just say like, here's what was received and then we can kind of go through and just talk about it and finalize it.
That works.
We can go from there.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing.
So right now, folks are gonna have a week to review this again.
Yeah, quick question, just understanding the process a little more. I do recall it was directions. I did read them, but I don't remember everything that was on it at this moment. But we did see the clerk self-review. Do we see the city managers as
They
well?
both.
Okay.
Self-review.
Okay.
Yep, so
Yeah,
we'll get them both.
Yeah, and then you'll like, so the end result is like a tabulated thing that we see and then the clerk and manager see. And it has their comments and then it has ours, but ours are just all grouped together. So it's not like so-and-so said this thing, you know. what I mean?
We will see that after we turn in our portion, is that?
So you'll get so yes, you'll get a finalized document that has like 2 rows. One will have their self-evaluation and then an average of all of ours together. And then if any individual comments that anyone put in will be redacted, so there's no identification of who wrote it, but it will be there also on the form in conjunction with their comments about their performance in those particular areas too. So everything will be on one document when we're done.
And it's usually color,
Yeah.
because I like color.
Ooh,
coded.
fancy.
Anyway, but you know, the clerk or the manager, their comments first and then the, you know, however many comments. And sometimes people don't write any comments. But I think it's helpful to give comments. So, you know, if you have something to say, I think, you know, when you're being evaluated, you certainly appreciate some sense of, you know, hey, this was great, or, you know, hey, maybe this could be better, you know, so, you know, just encouraging people to be thoughtful and if they have something to say in a comment to, you know, to go for it and say that. Because I think it makes it a fuller process, but I think Mayor, since we're gonna bring this back at the next one, I mean, I'm okay if people have 2 weeks, yeah, but
that's fine.
maybe, you know, if you could, like, the Monday,
Send the information. in
send it by like the Sunday before our next meeting, that way it gives me just a day to, you know, kind of print them out, and if it's, you know, hey, I gotta make some adjustments, or not, like I said, because I'll bring all the different things,
The sooner the better prior to our next meeting.
yeah,
Right. But no later than Sunday.
that would be great.
So again, I'm sorry, why do we see the city clerk beforehand? Because on the email, his is filled out.
So maybe we got one that was filled out and you shouldn't have. You
Okay.
don't see it beforehand. That is just an old one, maybe.
Oh,
That was just to
okay.
show The form.
Okay.
So the one in the packet is totally blank. And so we will get the city clerk and the city manager will send us their evaluations before we submit our personal evaluation, so that we have that information to use
Okay.
as well. Yeah, I think that was just sent like an attachment with something that was already filled in.
Okay.
It's not done. Yeah. Mr. Barr.
Yes, so I understand that you're going to send your individual comments to Councilmember Simmons. Do not include all,
Correct.
just to her, no back and forth, please.
So the information, any updates or anything that you have, just send them to Councilmember
This
Jason.
is an open meetings act, so we're
Okay.
not doing business, you know what I mean? So I think
I
that's,
didn't.
oh, no.
Oh, no, just.
Mr. Barr is
yeah.
just reminding all of us
He
that,
continues to remind us to
Yeah.
not deliberate or do business over email.
right, if everyone just sends it to me, I'll just bring it all forward at the next meeting, and then, you know, I can, if that works for folks, or you can bring your own comments, but that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's.
Anything else?
Does that
about
sound
it?
good?
Everybody feel good about this?
Yes.
All right.
Well.
Board and commissions. Police advisory.
nothing to report besides we're meeting on the 27th. And I hope to see some more members of the public there.
Chief Moore, I saw your hands. So the public can hear you, you know? Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and guests online. I just wanted to add to your the comments about the council that we have moved forward with an initiative that members of the council will be present and participating in our interview process. We have one of the members scheduled this week and we want to deliver as promised. And we want to make sure we have that community representation so that they have a stake in who we choose to represent us at the Ypsilanti Police Department. So that's a significant event and change and shift in culture. And so I just want to make sure that the mayor and council knew that that was taking place. And we should have some great results from that.
So much for being open to doing that and moving forward on it, because I think that's a wonderful step in the right direction. And something that we've heard a lot about, folks wanting to be involved, you know, in a way that makes sense. And I think this makes sense.
Thank you.
HRC?
No update.
Well, we about to soon. When we get through all this, you'll have updates. Arts Commission.
No update. I was not able to attend their last meeting and they'll be meeting again later this month.
All right, Parks and Rec. Oh, is that?
What?
Is that you?
That's still me.
Oh, okay.
That's why if they merge, it makes it easier for
Yeah.
Parks and Rec had conversation about their Fall River Day event, planning for the September 24th event. And then conversation about smoking and tobacco use in city playgrounds, and we'll have a recommendation coming forward to council soon on that.
Thank you. Sustainability. Oh, it's Steve? I just think it's Desiree. Okay.
No, it is me.
Oh,
Oh, wait.
I feel like it is Desiree.
It used to be Steve.
Councilmember D. Simmons.
Wait, okay, could I ask a question? Just because this came up, you brought this up last time we were talking about the smoking in the parks. I don't know if you were at that meeting when it came up. We were talking about vaping. I don't know if were you at that meeting? I don't know.
Yeah, I think high schoolers and vaping.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just mentioning it because you were talking about that and I was like, oh, I wonder if this is something that could fall under there or not. I don't know. Maybe it's something totally separate, probably, but anyway. That came up as a big concern of young people is like cigarette vaping, tobacco vaping. I don't know, actually. I don't know this. Anyway. Okay, so the Sustainability Commission, I think they met yesterday and I missed it. So I don't have any updates, but I'm sure that they do. So I'll share it later.
Thank you. They didn't.
I'm sorry. Oh, so I didn't actually miss it. Thanks, buddy. You know, I feel so torn up when I miss a meeting.
No homework for you. Okay.
Mhm.
HDC. All right. We got some new commissioners.
Yes.
Planning, that is Steve. Haha. And ZBA is also him. No, that's you. All right, man.
Okay, and nothing. Yeah.
That's really
We
also
have
nothing.
another new member today, which is Jake Albers, who's
All
been part of
right.
that for a long time.
Yeah.
It's good.
Okay, SEMCOG is Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay.
Watts is Jay Simmons.
Yeah, we had a meeting, but I don't think there's anything dramatic really to talk about.
All right.
Just, roads, traffic, repairs, a lot going on. Cool. Right, Bonnie? No? Times it's just pavement, concrete, repairs.
Great.
The city's a mess.
Urban counties, May, we had a little summer break, so we don't have a meeting until probably later this month, so I'm excited about that. DDA, we have not met yet. I have questions about, the city manager's gone, I'll wait. Rutherford Pool is Steve, but we did get, all right, we know there's been lots of talk about the funding that has been secured to support I don't know the word, he said resurfacing of the pool. Yeah, in the relining, anyway, in the state budget, the funds to close the gap were secured, so that will happen. Thank you to our state senator, Jeff Irwin, and our state representative, Jimmy Wilson Jr. for that. Bicentennial.
Well, many of you attended their wonderful time capsule reveal, and Madam Mayor got down and dirty with some
Didn't I?
old paperwork. 50-year-old newspaper articles.
Yeah.
So they had a successful event. They have a book signing event at the Whitaker Road Library this Sunday, book release, sorry, event this Sunday at the Whitaker Road Library at 2:00.
Very cool. I guess I'll add this now instead of my business, but when Mr. Barr came in for the meeting tonight, I can't get over the fact that there was a letter from Mr. Barr's law firm in the capsule.
Oh my God, I love it.
And I got to hold it and wait, the font on the letter, I just remembered this, looks just like the font you're still using. So I will put it, you can bring it to the committee, but I did talk to the chair about having Mr. Barr's firm put another letter in or something else in there.
That'd be fun.
When we do it in the ground in August, hopefully, because I think that's super cool.
Yes.
I mean, come on. Anyway, it was a wonderful, wonderful time. All right, council proposed business. You want Burning to go first, or so I'll do what I normally do. I'll stop you at the end. Burning is that? Go ahead.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I want to send my condolences out to the families who lost loved ones recently within these last 2 weeks to violence in our city and our neighboring township. When pockets of our city or pockets of our county hurt, we all hurt. And I just want to send condolences and love to all those families who lost loved ones. Besides that, I would like to bring a little joy to my council proposed business after that. Recently, a business partner, Mike Tubbs, and I have been working closely together to try and bring something different to the city of Ypsilanti and just the county of Washtenaw itself. For the last year and a half, we've been talking about getting a field day event done for the kids where we hold games and food and music and giveaways and all these different types of things. So we've actually made some headway on that. We got approval. August 12th at Ford Lake Park, Elite Quality Plus and the Cream Incorporated are hosting a field day event that all of you are 100% welcome to come to. And we are also working on trying to put things together to have an event similar, but not exactly the same here in Ypsi City, either in Park Ridge Park or Riverside Park. I just want to reiterate that this field day event is on August 12th from noon to around 8 p.m. at Ford Lake Park, and everybody is welcome. Food, family, community, togetherness, and everything. Fun. Yes, you have to pay for parking. Like, you're not about to drive through the gates and not pay. You have to pay. But after you pay getting through the gates, everything is free. It's on us. Come have fun. The food is on us. The games is on us. Come through. You got giveaways from the 501c3 organization that I helped co-found, the Cream. You also have giveaways as far as, like, I believe he said credit repair services from Mr. Mike Tubbs himself, Elite Quality Plus, and various other giveaways from many other businesses and vendors that may be there. So to get more information on that, keep in contact with your good old councilman, Roland Tucson, or follow online, and all that information will be given to you.
Love the commercial. I really love it. So you all are seeking sponsors and donors.
Yes, we are seeking sponsors, donors, vendors. So if you have a business or if a friend has a business, definitely contact either myself or Mike Tubbs, your local councilman, Roland Tucson. Contact me and we can get that all settled. But yeah, I hope to see everyone there.
Thank you. That was a wonderful commercial.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. I'll go down here, Councilmember King.
I don't know how to follow that.
Sorry, I
I
didn't.
just switched it down there.
I'm trying to do a big thing, so.
Okay, so I have a few things today. So first, my first council proposed business is to council. Wow, I really enjoyed the 4th of July parade. I was a little disappointed because I feel like we were not all on the same page. And especially being representatives of the city, I think we should do a better job at being on the same page. And I wanted to bring this up today because this has happened on other occasions before, where only some of the council members were in the loop and others were not. So I just want to do a better job in that area, and I will take full responsibility in engaging a little more. But to me, that is a little upsetting because we are leaders in the community.
More in terms of being on the same page, just so I understand, like what was missing?
What was missing with the parade per
In terms of
se?
being on the same page in preparation for the parade, because I want to better understand that too, because I didn't know a lot.
So this was my first time being in the parade for the city council. And I did not have a lot of information regarding what would happen, like, what we would wear. And I did ask. I feel like I asked a few times and I just didn't get clarity. And even the day before, I still was looking for clarity, but I did not reach out. So in that moment, I could have, some of the council members, most had on the bicentennial t-shirts. It would have been nice if maybe everybody was in the loop so we can all be on one page. You know what I'm saying? So that was one of the issues.
Did we get?
So, yeah, that.
No, that was important. Yeah.
I especially think it's important again, because we expect our residents to come to us and we just want to be on the same page when it comes to any kind of city business. And when we are out here in the city representing the city. Another concern is we have had a few people reach out via email regarding construction, and they're looking for solutions for road calming. So that is something I would love to talk more about, and also about the noise in the park. So I would love to know what is the resolve and the response even for those residents. And lastly, I would like to also say condolences to the family that have recently lost loved ones. I know how difficult that is. I know last year I lost a family member around the same time to gun violence. So my heart goes out to them. Thank you.
Can I ask, this is noise in which part?
Riverside.
Right.
No,
Riverside Park?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was gonna ask you a question, but mine's not about that. So I was gonna ask you which park.
So Chief, can you come to the podium really fast about the park? Yeah, yeah. So we've been receiving majority of the same complaint from the same resident for a long time. And we have provided them with information around the decibels that are allowed when special permits are like all that information. And I think as of most recently now, our new chief has also communicated with the resident who's been emailing us. And so I just wanted you to speak to kind of what you shared with.
Yes, so thank you again, Mayor and Council, and to address the issue of noise. When particular entities apply for special permits for park usage, particularly a festival or a large scale event, our city ordinances, we have stipulations and provisions for that will allow that entity to exceed, normal decibel levels. In other words, there's an exemption for a concert, for loud, venue events, and this is in our ordinances. So those individuals, they apply. Once it's approved, then they're acting within the legality, right? So when we have residents complaining about the decibels and whatnot, we have decibel readers. However, the decibel readers are for acute issues. Say we get, called to a home, loud music, that type of thing. But when we have an event, a festival, concert, they through the process, they have been approved to exceed that because it is an outdoor venue. So the event itself is not committing any infraction, against the city. Now, the only way to address this issue in a different manner is to change the city ordinance.
Yeah, well, It's Councilmember King's question, so you have any questions before we?
Oh, no, thanks for the information. That's helpful information because I did not know that.
Okay,
Mhm.
of course.
Question?
Yeah, so I appreciate this because it was also one of the things. So one of the questions, so this is helpful, like to be able to respond and say,
Mhm.
actually, by getting the permit is an exemption.
That's
So I think that that's helpful. One of my thoughts, of course, as they're, continually coming up with, kind of contacting us. I was also, not that this always helps, like the response of, if people know the benefits, that all of a sudden that changes their concern. Like, obviously, that's not the case, but it made me think about, being able to name, well, the city actually gets funds for hosting or like permitting these events, right? Like Spark in the Park. I'm sure the city, I don't know how much the city got for that.
Not enough.
So maybe that's
Charging more.
so maybe, so I mean, so anyway, so maybe that's something to think about in terms of the exemptions, whether that's something we tie, like in terms of that increase of whatever and what that means in terms of enhancement of service or response for residents around that, or like a calendar of events to people who are within a certain,
Vicinity to the event.
So
certain roundabout, who live within a certain proximity to our parks, where events are hosted, because Riverside's not the only one that hosts events. And so that was one of my questions too, about like, are other parks getting these same things, or is it these same kind of complaints from other places? So
I agree with you. I think we have an obligation to really notice the adjacent communities when we're going to have a large scale event. And I think we have an obligation to do it in, multiple ways, not just hosting on our calendar events, but making some deliberate attempt to let people know, hey, this event is coming up and it's going to be, this weekend or whatever that is, and it's going to be, loud, so that, that they know they can make whatever adjustments. As far as the fee scale, and Andrew, please don't let me speak out of turn. But I know we have just gone through looking at some revisions to those fees. And so I know you sent it out to everybody, and everybody's had an opportunity to weigh in from their area, the department heads. And so there will likely, if approved, be some increases in some of those areas, because we recognize that our fees have been low comparatively to other cities our size and venues that bring in substantial crowd and revenue, and our fees have been pretty low. So those are one of the things that we're looking at.
Thank you. And one thing I will also add that is new for us, so for newer council members, you probably don't know this, but Wendy has now been sending out a weekly list of events. We never got that before. So this
I
is,
noticed that change.
yeah, it's a change. So we never getting that before with our new chief. That has been happening. So we can also utilize that to share with our residents from our channels that we have around, like, this is what's coming up for the week across the city, not even just in our own ward. And I really appreciate that, especially because we never knew what was going on for a while unless we, it was brought to us, we talked about it.
Right.
Yeah. Councilmember King, do you have anything else? Because this was started from your business, so I want to make sure that everything you needed.
So what about the construction and the situations? How and when can we have that conversation?
That's a joint effort between. I don't know what
Doctor?
we could do. Professor Wessler. Yes, Professor Wessler this time.
No, it's not like him, Professor.
Oh.
No, that was actually my name as a kid. They called me Professor Kirk.
Oh, not Cat. So all of it. No, I'm gonna.
But mainly over here, oh, I have to look at the email real quick, but I know it was like Adams and coming on to by the library area. Mhm.
Yep.
They are actually at peak disruption, and everything here from here on out should be sort of downhill slide. Knock on wood that I didn't just jinx everything.
Please no.
But they have stuck the last water main in the ground. It is just a matter of connecting it all and wrapping it up. So we probably only have. No, I'm just gonna give it a ridiculous estimate and say 10 to 15 more weeks.
Ooh. What?
He wants to set
The heart attack. Okay.
So, the end is nigh, but
And I know Councilman Simmons brought up like some kind of, I know she's actively working on it as well, some traffic calming. Is there anything we can do? I know one of the residents wanted a police officer like on duty. I know that's probably something that cannot happen. But what can we do to calm the traffic a little bit in that area in the meantime?
one of the things that we've done that has been to place barricades on a lot of the side streets. Down Hamilton, south of Michigan.
Divert to the neighborhood.
And that, has made some people angry and has, I think, also helped divert some of the traffic down to Harriet where those roads are actually more built for. I'm not gonna speak for them.
Yeah, one of the significant issues is our, our current staffing. So we're trying to balance traffic safety concerns and the ability to handle, our calls for service. As spoken earlier, we are in the beginning of our summer season, which increases our call volume. It increases the severity of the types of calls. So trying to maintain that balance, it is difficult as we, it won't help in the immediate future, but as our staffing gets to the appropriate level, then we will be able to address these issues in a different way. Not to say that we're not addressing it at all. It's just we're prioritizing, what gets the most importance. And right now, things pertaining to violence, that's our top priority right now. We've experienced a couple murders, we got a couple other significant events that's really been a resource drain for the organization. When we have one of those, what I would consider catastrophic events, it literally pulls away almost the entire organization to bring those cases to resolution. So it's difficult.
Thank you.
I guess I would just add, in terms of safety, but also like business owners have been really talking about the impact that the construction has been having on their ability to function and losses that they're taking due to all of the roads kind of like just being torn up. And actually during the meeting right now, I just got another email about, folks feeling worried about the sustainability of their business after this long period of time of not being able to have folks, enter and park and be able to traverse this downtown area for so long. On top of that, speaking to like our police staffing and the presence, there have also been increased, like people are agitated and there have been more things happening downtown around like folks like all out just fighting on the streets too. And so just hopefully we can increase the presence and response time to support folks who are really feeling burnt out and frustrated right now, patrons as well as the business owners during this time frame.
Business owners have definitely let their voice be heard. I've met with almost all of them. And not to, make light of their situation, because I truly understand. So we're trying to be strategic and trying to help holistically attack the issues surrounding the downtown area and the transit center, because it's having an impact on those businesses significantly. And the traffic is just another piece.
Yes. Some cluster of things all at one time happening. So yeah, but I appreciate the work that you both have done because I've seen changes. One thing that I also want to point out, you had some great business because there are so many things coming up from this, but down Hamilton, I'm noticing, I don't know if it's on purpose, that those cones are moved over to differently in that bike lane, whatever, I don't even know what it is at this point. Bike lane, this wide bike lane, people have been driving down, causing almost like head-on collisions often when they're trying to turn on a Harriet in the bike lane. So just, if we could just make sure that when people are moving them so that they get moved back, because it is very, very dangerous. And I don't know if I've asked this before, but is that the end? Is that what it's gonna look like? Okay, because, oh Lord, it's not yet. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Mhm. Okay. Yeah, okay. It's really been dangerous. But thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you for great business on this. Councilmember Jay Simmons.
Well, since you're both up there. The stripe buffer zone. So what I've learned on my time on Watson, just whatever, that, right, the safest way for pedestrians and bicyclists and whatnot is to just fully separate them right from traffic. And so I appreciate what we've been doing and trying to increase our walkability and, bikeability and things. When I think about this new area with this big wide strip, which is great. I just don't know that I feel like the striping is enough. And then I don't know if, we had those, right, the kind of delineators, thank you, but they're so kind of wide out that, I think people still don't quite understand what it is. And so I don't know if we need more of them, but I mean, to me, this would be my dream, is that we actually had like a curb, like it really, truly delineated, like in Ann Arbor, how they're doing, which drives me bonkers on one hand as a driver, but then I love it on the other for the cyclists. And so anyway, that would be I guess my dream is that we really, truly do that. So anyway, I don't know, Bonnie, is there? Yeah.
Can you be in the mic, please?
Oh,
No, can you please,
speak
yeah,
to the mic,
speak into the
sorry.
mic, sorry.
One of the reasons we have the delineators and the striping rather than curbing and a fully separated space is because we do still have our eyes on that two-waying, right? And so
Oh,
any curb we put into place,
Fair enough.
makes things a lot more expensive. And when things are a lot more expensive, people perceive that sunk cost and say, well, we just sunk $1 bajillion into this. It makes things more difficult in order to swap it. So we still have our eyes on that prize of two-waying, and I mean, that's kind of what we're doing this capacity reduction for, the lane reduction for, is to help the streets show the usage types that we want to support. So to support the pedestrian usage, to support the bicyclist usage, to slow down that vehicle traffic, to divert some of the through traffic from using our downtown, since they're not populating our downtown, they're not serving our downtown, they're not stopping and eating and dining and shopping and what have you in our downtown. We are just a straight through path. So we want to, it's in the master plan, reward the short trip. And so that's what we're trying to do here, is to really cater to our short trip users and to help our through traffic find perhaps a better suited route for them that is less disruptive to our residents and to our other locals. So we curbed it. We'd have to reimagine our stormwater. It would also make trash collection a lot more difficult and recycle collection and what have you. And so this is it's a compromise solution that hopefully is relatively short, but relatively short term in road funding discussions, as you all know, is at least 5 years.
You had me at two-way. So I just want you to know.
Two-way.
Bonnie, you're like, I'm going to call you the Oracle of Ypsilanti because you have all the answers.
Keep putting these in my.
I know. So add that one. No, thanks for, thank you for that reminder about, the past discussions and kind of what are.
No.
But I appreciate that. Yeah. So anyway, so I mean, again, I love it adding these things, and so I am concerned about, kind of cyclists because people really drive fast on our streets, they really do. And I'm a motorcyclist. So it's like I'm on the road and I'm dodging potholes and Gotta worry about them. But anyway, so, okay, so thanks for that. And then, regarding noise complaints, so, a resident who lives near Rec Park in Normal Park, you know, she's had some questions and she's asked me like, who can I talk to? And she's a very reasonable person and she understands she's by the park and there's going to be activities. And so she's fine with that. But she said, you know, there is a kind of tendency, I think it's more of the summertime activity with, you know, after 10 PM when things are closed, that sometimes there's some partying and just some kind of, you know, noisy stuff going on. And like, you know, who's best to call for that? And you,
So, yes.
okay, right? That's what, you know,
After hours and it's not a, you know, an approved event and you get that type of noise.
Yeah.
That's definitely police.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so that we can go out and address, you know, that issue. We're equipped for that.
yeah, I mean, I think, right, that has been the answer in the past. I understand we've kind of capacity issues and we might not be able to address those, but I'll redirect her back that way. And I think another one is that apparently, that she may want to call in and maybe even speak to you. I don't know, but there's kind of an annual party she's telling me about that kind of comes around, EMU time. And I don't know that it's like they get a permit. I think they're using the picnic area, but it ends up being kind of a disaster like each year. So I'm not sure. I don't have a lot of details on that, but she's like, it's like an EMU welcome back party thing that happens and then it's just trashed and it's noisy and it's whatever. So so who wants to look into that? Or I can, I'll just tell her to call Chief
Who wants the
Moore.
job?
Okay, or Wendy. Okay, all right. I'll just say here. Okay, no, that's great. And so I just said I'm going to mention it and see who might be, you know, best suited. Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate the work you're both doing. I think that's all I have. I just had those things. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you might not be off the hook. Councilmember Davis.
Can they sit down?
Can they go sit?
I don't know. Well, Bonnie, I definitely have things for her.
Oh,
Um, I know. Well, you know, you just get so many emails and now it's like fun because we just are on the same emails. Okay, so the easiest thing, so I got an email from Swoop. So I think this just came through maybe within the past couple of days when
About the 30-minute parking on.
about the signs for the parking. So I just wanted to lift that. I just saw it and I was like, oh, I may as well mention it to try to get that.
It's been challenging lately because of some changes in staff recently, so it hasn't been a priority because I know that we haven't had, you know, it wasn't going to be an issue.
Uh-huh.
But that, I'm getting that back in the pipeline hopefully this week.
Okay. Because basically it's just, yeah, to get these new signs put, okay, yeah, okay.
the Oracle has spoken. Sorry.
So, yeah, that's why we haven't replaced the temporary signs with more temporary signs.
Mm.
Because they'll be replaced
No,
with,
no.
those two meters will be replaced with 2 15. I think 30-minute, isn't it? I'll have to check.
Okay. All right, great. I'll let Colton know. And then another thing that has come up, and I know you had given a response, but I just want to like say it for a couple, because I've had a couple of people contact me around recycling, surprise, surprise. But in particular, so this one issue was around people who rent, who have been having issues getting their recycling bins. And somebody was saying that, well, their landlord, they're in a Beal property, their landlord said that, well, the reason you don't have this is because of the city. And then there was this thing about being tied to their certificate, the inspection, but that then the Beal representatives weren't showing up. And so then that was prolonging the process.
So we are not requiring an actual certificate of compliance for the rental properties. We are merely requiring that they be in the chute. And honestly, it's as much an educational effort as anything else, because especially with COVID and the inspections not happening for about 2 years now. A lot of tenants don't realize that this is a way that the city acts in order to help protect them. So by requiring this, we're helping people get back on the inspection horse and back in the compliance bandwagon in a very it's intended to be a low stress way, a carrot way, rather than an enforcement way or a stick way. And helping to educate the tenants, say, this is something that your landlord needs to do. Are we requiring they be fully certified? Absolutely not. We know that we don't have the staff. We are requiring that they register and hopefully have an inspection scheduled. Having an inspection scheduled is the easiest way for us to check because that shows up. in the database. If they merely register, we actually have to call over to the building department and double check.
And so a landlord is not able to hold up the process so much that the tenants could not get a recycling bin. So I mean, I think that was one of the concerns. And then the other thing is whether there's been a reduction in recycling service due to this change. So I know that in our discussion so far, it has sounded like it hasn't been a reduction in service. In fact, there's been some expansion of service in terms of more multi-units being serviced than had previously been with these new bins. So I just wanted to confirm whether that's the case or whether there has in fact been a reduction in our recycling service.
Well, I want to make absolutely clear that there's no intention for there to be a reduction in service. We have seen an increase in the amount of tonnage that we're dropping off at the MRF, so there is an increased use. Now, some of this is due to some of the single family rentals that we believe just simply weren't aware of the recycling program being in existence. Having the bins dropped off and parts dropped off at those homes likely, helped them actually participate. Has it been perfect? Absolutely not. But our hope and our plan is for the overall tonnage and the overall participation to go up, and the overall participation in recycling generally, even if it's just at the drop-off station, to go up as well. So, but in a more hygienic, more predictable, regular way, because what we were seeing with the bins, we would have a lot of worker injuries because scooping up 50 pounds. And then even though, we asked everybody to put things into a, unique container, if it's not going to be in the bins. It's not always the case, so they're picking that up. Oftentimes they were checking for contamination as they were doing so, and taking that out, putting that on the ground. So we have changed some of our expectations there rather than, I call it being a concierge recycling service, where we put everything out at the curb and we pick and choose what goes in the back of the trunk. If we see contamination, we know there's more contamination in that 96-gallon bin, we are going to reject it. We're also not accepting things outside of the bin, partially because of that worker safety issue, partially also because of contamination issues, because wet cardboard is not recyclable cardboard. It adds to our contamination issues, so it has the potential to reject it. People put trash in it as they go by, it's scattered all over the place. But really the biggest issue there is contamination of worker safety. So we are not accepting things outside of the bins. We just this week assessed our inventory, our capacity, what have you. We do have enough carts, and we are offering the 1- and 2-family homes the opportunity to purchase an extra cart delivered as of this week. We've had a couple people already sign up for that because their recycling volume exceeds, a single 96-gallon cart, which is impressive. Like legitimately impressive. That is not something that we currently plan on expanding to our commercial pickups. So we are doing weekly pickups on the commercial routes. So that is downtown, Depot Town, and West Cross. If people do have any issues with the timeliness of those pickups, please call our office, because that is the easiest way to ensure timely response. But we are capping that at three carts. I keep calling them bins. I'm sorry. 3 carts per property because of visibility concerns, access concerns. It essentially comes down to safety. These things are put out at the curb. People still need to be able to access. There's on-street parking there. There's driveways there. People are turning. Overall, it's a lot better situation than the drifts of cardboard. Ultimately, I think that some of the users might find that a private recycling hauler might be a better fit for them, since what we see is predominantly cardboard. If they do get a cardboard hauler, 3 bins is 1.5 cubic yards. The smallest cardboard dumpster you can get is about 3 cubic yards. If they have the space, I personally think that would be a great solution. And then they could recycle some of their other materials curbside. So it may, things may change for businesses over time as they figure out what suits best for them. And that was a really rambling answer. We started a multi-family recycling and I just went.
No, you answered, that was great because you already know the issues that have been coming forward. So it's helpful.
One thing that we are doing right now, so a lot of times the upper stories, residential units in downtown, West Coast, really more in downtown because it's onesie twosie. We are currently offering one part for the upper story over a business property. So sometimes that's 2 units, sometimes that's 5 units. When it's 5 units, it's usually smaller households or smaller volume. So we're kind of testing the waters. This isn't really something that was done before. Didn't really have curbside recycling in a lot of these locations before. Also, I can't stress enough that this commercial recycling and this multifamily recycling is not done in other cities. One of the reasons is it's very difficult to do right, and it's hard to handle the volume. We aren't set up to do the volume. We aren't staffed to do the volume. We don't have the equipment to do the volume. So we're making like 5 pounds of sausage fit to like a 1.5 pound bag or whatever material you so choose analogy. Again, long rambling answer. Hopefully useful.
Great. And then the last thing, I mean, this is again, just an email I might have gotten just now, I don't know, or before this meeting, which is around the state of downtown business district, and concerns, that y'all were already kind of talking about. And of course, there's one answer, which is call the police more. And also, I just want to say too, just as for us to think about what our process is going to be for the alternative response RFP process and things for that of that sort, to deal with some of these challenges in these different ways. And I think even for when thinking about like noise complaints, again, like I think there could be alternative response for that. So, but I know that this is something that's come forward, has come up before. And, especially for folks downtown and thinking about, when they're talking about having to clean up, right, the feces and different things like that. Like to me, that also lifts up like lack of like bathrooms, right? It's like, there's so many things where I feel like there's like preventative, like different kind of preventative measures that could be support. Yeah. And so I think about too, conversations with some of the business owners around, everywhere you go, it's like, there's no public bathrooms, but there actually are bathrooms. So like, maybe it's like, is the question, do you want the feces outside of your business or inside the toilet? I don't know. Like, so I just want to like lift that up. It's like, if this is an ongoing issue, maybe it's that you don't let people use the bathroom because we all need to go, right? Everybody poops. That's a book for kids. So, anyway, I think some of these different things we need to think about how we can help to address, because I understand for a business owner that is in a location, that's not the kind of things that they want to deal with. So. Check.
Sweet.
Okay.
You need them.
No, I don't have really. Bonnie, I actually already had my council proposed business. She talked about recycling issues and with the businesses.
Thank you.
So, just some recycling things that have come up with some Depot Town businesses that I'm trying to work through with Bonnie and Christopher to give them some solutions. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was just a thank you to DPS, YPD, and YFD for their support, logistical support of the parade and the events from last weekend. I know that's a lot goes into that. The Tetra truck was a nice addition. I know there's a lot of DPS crew on staff and a big YPD presence. So thanks for that work on the holiday. I know there could have been other things you guys could have been doing, but it was nice.
It wasn't sweet. For my, isn't that, yeah.
Is it yours?
I don't know. I just want to add on to that in terms of the support from DPS and YPD and YFD for the Capitol opening as well. We needed deck and folks were there, so thank you. Yeah, the 4th of July was great. I was honored to serve as the Grand Marshal on the parade, so that was very, very cool. And then be able to participate in the reveal of the items in the time capsule, which I've already kind of talked about. My favorite part, I said it to the news, was Mr. Barr's letter. Um, and I'm looking forward to seeing what ends up going into this new time capsule that the Bicentennial Committee will be helping prepare to bury in August or sometime, at the end of the summer. I don't know. I feel like we had a lot of good conversation. Got to tap in on some of Councilmember King's business from earlier. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's going on that's super important. Not. So yeah, no, I don't think I have any other business other than I'm ready to go sleep. Yeah. So city manager.
I just want you guys to be looking out in your emails for some updates about staffing changes and processes that will, as we move forward. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Public comment. Luke, would you like to talk to us about anything? You got 3 minutes.
Anyone would like to make comments, please raise your hand now. No hands raised.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us for the rest of the meeting. That was very, very nice. I don't have any other remarks other than everybody be well, prosper, have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you all on the 25th. The meeting is adjourned. Look, I didn't do it.